What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
This project started to coalesce. I started to realize that travel agents and travel agencies first are going away. And I think that those words and that term and the beauty of that is so nice that I don't ever want it to leave. I don't want it to be replaced with Expedia. So I felt like kind of a personal responsibility as an artist to take care of that gray space of like what is going to happen to this word, what is going to happen to these terms, and find something that really feels like it fits it. So the travel agency operates kind of on this principle that many people who engage with the contemporary art community are tourists. And it's very difficult for people traveling to a new place for the first time to feel comfortable in that space. And the thing that the travel agency does, or travel agents do, is they use their expertise to translate local culture and norms to a tourist, to a visitor. And the process of giving that to them and making it clear to them is a way of like welcoming them into these beautiful new experiences.
But it's funny that you bring up Kiki's now, Kiki Salem's piece, which I feel like is totally so much different than Elle's piece.
Right.
This one feels it is meant to be empowering and implicating the viewer and the reader in a very direct way. So I feel like, and maybe more people took pictures of themselves in front of Kiki's piece because of that empowering aspect of it.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we can like talk a little bit too about like the digital audience. Like I think Kiki's particularly, this one was like reshared so many times, and was just like, it was really cool to see how far it spread that way. They didn't have to be there, to take a photo. They could just share the image that we took. But for them, it was like sharing her PSA.
There are a couple of things. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was kind of the most contrast of like, this is one that I saw a lot more interaction with on social, or a lot more people kind of like being a part of this image. I feel like this speaks, like this is one that you step into and you can own this message for yourself and engage in this message for yourself. And there are a couple of other things that change with this one. The banner style of the text is very unique and divergent for the scope of what we see PSA typically do. And and then I'm not actually sure of the timing of this, but I think that looking at this one and then also looking at Jessie Donovan's billboard, and thinking about them as like similar materials as well. So there's like this banner material, and then this like I think most often billboards are kind of like this tarp-like banner, vinyl tarp material, and we have a detail of it here. Okay.
That's hand embroidery by Kiki.
Oh, wow.
That was a nice touch that she added to it as well.
Yeah.
Kiki works a lot with fiber arts, so.
Yeah, maybe that's why we were kind of drawn to working on, we talked about doing banners with her, and she was really on board. She also does tapestries in her work and a lot of fiber, so I think it really makes sense.
A big part of the banner decision for Kiki's work was because we wanted to accommodate the Arabic text, and so the way our infrastructure set up, it would have been difficult to cut out the Arabic text and place that. It wouldn't have fit on the wires so well, so that's why we opted for a banner approach.
That there are a lot of portrait work, but then there's also a lot of graphic design with 3D elements on there. I'm looking. Do you see the one that I'm showing right now?
Yeah, I can see that. That's titled either Ritual 1 or Ritual 2, but they're kind of based off me looking into like historically, like coming from like African roots, how we like use rituals like throughout time as Black people, whether it's from Africa, the Caribbean, you know, like American Black people. I feel like regardless of where you're located, like the idea of like ritual and like spirituality has always like played a huge part in the culture as a whole. So this is me kind of like not direct, this is not like a direct like, oh, this comes from this spiritual practice, but it's definitely like a shout out to spirit boards and divination and like the different ways that we would use like fortune telling and different things like that. So this is kind of like a representation of that practice, like having shapes and like in different tribes in Africa, like they'll paint shapes on their houses and on their huts to represent certain ideas, whether it's like goddesses or representing protection or whatever. So this is like my take on symbols that to me represent protection, but also historically, like the triangle, the pyramids, or the idea of the eye and like mirrors, like reflecting back to you. So it's a lot of that, like a lot of personal interpretation about like divination and spirituality, but also like historical as well.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Club Stars Line. I'm your co-host Jake Leach, and to my left on your screen is my mom, Denise Hewlett. Hi mom, how are you doing?
Oh, hi son, how are you? We ready to do
I'm doing
this
quite peachy. Yeah, we're gonna do this today. Well, so a lot has happened. I'm already out of breath. My God, we're just so hype in this. Mom, you're kind of somewhere else. The people can't really see, but we've got you're actually in space. It looks like.
Yeah.
So you're looking back onto the planet. Did you take like a Tesla rocket? Are you at the International Space Station? Where are you exactly right now?
That is a view of the Earthrise, and no, I am not in the space station. I am in my transit van in the high desert in Joshua Tree, California. That's where I'm from. Shall we go ahead and show people? Should we
Yes,
do the
show
big
people where you're at. Let's take a
so
look
let me
here.
go ahead and open the van door.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Kind of bright, y'all. Can you see it?
Yeah, mom,
Kevin,
here,
see?
bring your computer over so people can kind of see.
Am I doing the right?
Yeah,
part two?
that's. Why don't you go out and stand in it real quick, mom, just to prove that it's not a green screen.
Hello, y'all.
Yeah, exit the van entirely. Go. This ain't no joke, y'all. Yeah, there she is, out in the world. We love to see this. Yes, bye, Denise. My mom said, or my mom, little Miss Gabby says, we got the chat blowing up over here.
Oh my goodness.
Ghost riding
All
the
right.
whip over here. So.
Okay, so we will be checking on the sunset periodically over the next hour and a half, but right now it is blazing, so I need to close it. So here we go.
Okay, yes. Get that door closed here, nice and cool.
Yeah. Yes. Although, speaking of blazing, I also have my, can you see this?
Yeah, what do we have here?
My UFO incense thing going. So just to complete the whole thing, you know.
It's a full sensory overload, a full sensory experience you have going on here.
Isn't that interesting, Jake? Isn't that interesting?
Is that something that might come up later on?
That might, exactly.
Okay.
So here we go. Now, this is going to be loud. Okay,
All right, here we go, friends.
Yeah, okay, ready?
Everyone cover your ears. Okay. Ooh, goodness.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So we got some friends in the chat here already. Laura, good to see you. Happy Mom's Day. Happy Mom's Day to the moms. And yes, Denise and Jake are really cute. You should check out their show, Club Stars Align. Typically like the last Thursdays of the month, but you know where all that information is at. President Lincoln, bro, I just ate hella pancakes. Well, you're in the Art Brunch pocket, in the pocket of Art Brunch. I do not look forward to next year when Jake and I have to eat one more pancake than we ate this year. But yes, welcome. If this is your first time on Twitch, awesome. It's pretty fun. It's cool. It's a little bit different. You may notice that you can chat, and people do chat. You can ask questions as we go through the talk, and I will feed them through to our guest in a timely manner. I've got a co-host here, a good friend, Jake Leach.
Hello, Rick. How are you?
I'm good. I think I always wonder, how much I should introduce you, but I feel like people know you. But if you ever want to like write like a little blurb for me to read for you,
Okay.
I would read it out. What would you qualify as like your top 3 accomplishments?
Let's see. Waking up in the morning. I tell you what. Being here with you, Rick, every Sunday or most Sundays of my life, which is wonderful.
Uh-huh.
And
You're already on the show. You don't have to suck up to me.
okay, it's called a compliment. It's called showing love in public. It's something we talk about a lot. All right.
Yeah,
Anyway.
you're right.
And I know how to ride a bike. That felt good. Learning how to do that felt amazing. I learned how to ride a bike on a baseball diamond because grass is too choppy and the concrete is too hard.
Oh.
So my mom and grandma thought that a baseball diamond like that was the best kind of physical space to ride a bike, and it worked. I mean, here I am. I'm riding a bike. Enjoy biking. Shout out to the bikers out in the chat.
Yeah, that was a creative moment.
I think so too. I think it made a lot of sense.
Smuth in the chat says I had waffles with a cryy text emote, not
Cool.
the OG ASCII art. President Lincoln wishes us good luck next year for our pancake mukbang bonanza.
Thank you.
Laura's about to have some quiche. Oh,
Yum.
Greg Stevens in the chat here with the pink-haired emote, which I don't even know what that is. And Greg says, I had 12 hot dogs for breakfast.
Yeah,
To which Laura
that's the vibe.
responded, 12 hot dogs for breakfast is for champions.
I agree.
Quiche understands me, says President Lincoln. And then we've got a short poem, 2/3 of a haiku here from Gregory Stevens. Quiche if you do, quiche if you don't.
God, if that ain't the truth, bro, I'll tell you what, boy.
Is that Buddy?
It's
Buddy.
Boomhauer,
Oh.
actually. But yeah, but that's
Inspiration
like
for Buddy.
It's the neighbor of Buddy, for sure.
We have a
Real
guest
ones,
today. It's not Boomhauer.
No, I wish.
Our
No
guest
offense to our guest.
Our guest today is Vincent Stemmler. I have a bio for them here. Vincent Stemmler is an interdisciplinary artist from St. Louis, Missouri, whose work is often a contemplation on the interplay between identity and place. Vincent received a BFA from the School of the Art Institute Chicago and an MFA from Southern Illinois University Edwardsville. Vincent is currently an adjunct professor at Florissant Valley Community College in Missouri, teaching ceramics and drawing classes. Vincent's most notable recent exhibitions include 2 solo shows, Sticks in the Mud and Garden of the Void, and a nationally juried group exhibition at Miami University as a finalist in the 2019 Young Sculptors competition. Vincent, welcome.
Hello.
You're live on the Twitch word.
Fuck it, I'm doing it live. All you
Should we
people out
slam on the desk more? I feel like we need more.
Oh,
more desk.
yeah.
What's that
all
do
you
for your
people
sound
in
levels,
Twitch
Rick?
world know
Sorry,
what
I
I'm
don't.
talking about with the inside internet jokes that are only for people who have the internet, I guess.
No, that's what we need. I mean, anyone watching the show has the internet, so I mean, they
Yeah.
had some time. They had some time to get used to it.
Do your research, people.
Oh. Laura dropped some exploding emotes in the chat and exclamation points. Vince, let's hear it for the boy, says Laura.
I wish we had like sound bites of like explosions and stuff.
Yeah, I wish we did too.
So, yeah, I guess that's for me, maybe. I don't know.
President Lincoln says, I feel that meeting Jake would be a crowning achievement of my life. I can add him to the lists of Jakes I know.
Oh my God!
It was like
President.
It is like that, Prez.
Linkhold, love you. Big shout out. Would love to meet anytime. Let's link and build, bro. Let's link and build.
They don't call him Linkold for nothing.
Hey,
Lincoln logs. Dropping Lincoln logs on him.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Are we trying to get a little drinky?
Oh, a little drinky.
Oh,
A little
fuck
drinky?
yeah, dude. I got this.
What we got here?
Ketchup,
What we got here, y'all?
watered down ketchup with some of this.
Throwing it back old school, right, Rick?
Throwing it back
Yeah,
in.
yeah. This was like the original idea for the segment, and we've gone all the way back through. So when we first started, we were tasting we were just drinking all kinds of different Bloody Mary mixes, but then it just like created a thousand issues that we couldn't resolve, and now we're back because the Can Crucible's dead.
So we're rejecting modernity and embracing tradition. That's right. Getting back to where it started.
Smoth Spit in the chat says ketchup is the best brunch drink, saucy.
I agree.
Hashtag saucy.
Agree.
So, Vince and I have this Barsmith Nashville Hot Bloody Mary mix, and we've got some Casamigos tequila for the day, because we're wealthy. And that's what we're drinking.
Rolling it.
That's right. Well, so, and as I was just very noticeably left out, I only have spicy Barsmith, not Nashville style. So I'm going to pretend it's Memphis style because I have homies from Memphis. So what's up, Memphis? Also, my what was the alcohol I used? It's the other one that comes in like the small rotund bottle that's like kind of orange. It's like the other nice tequila that people like. I don't know. Never mind. I'm not using Casamigos though.
You drinking some Patron right now?
What?
You got Patron right now?
I mean, I didn't want.
It's really rolling, bro. You drink
I don't want to say anything, but anyway, cheers, y'all.
Yeah, cheers.
Here we go.
Cheers. It's a good way to get us all kind of on the same page.
Espelon. Thank you,
yeah.
T Green Girl in the chat.
Good.
That's exactly
I like
what it
that.
is.
That's good. That's fire.
Thank you. Oh my god.
Espelon.
That's right. Amazing.
Eli or 314 in the chat says hello to Vince and Jake. So I will.
Oh, what's up? Wow. Thanks for being here.
Eli or 314.
Let's go.
It's got a nice rhythm to it.
Yeah, been a minute.
I'm Rick, by the way. You can say hello to me too if you'd like.
Don't talk to him.
See,
Jake.
you left me out of the liquor part. You get left out of the hello. Okay, this is how this works.
I'm putting both of these shots in here, so I'm about to get.
Let's go.
A little turned up because it was not spicy enough. Are we gonna do that kind of mindfulness practice of the drink that you guys usually do with like the
a little bit?
That's out the window. We're just getting burnt today.
Okay, because I'm making a lot of observations right now, and I'm just wondering if I should save them.
I see.
Oh, I'm saying your name wrong. Sorry.
Elior?
Elior? Is that?
Elior, I believe. That's my guess. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but I think it's Elior. It's just one word. But
Cool. Yeah, if you want to advise me, I'd be happy to refer to you by the name that you like. Yeah, Elior?
Okay, we got it.
All right,
we
cool.
got it. We got it. And
Laura?
Rick with the fresh cut.
The
I
fresh
agree,
cut.
Laura.
Thanks
Look
for
at that.
Mhm.
We're freaking
Fresh
clean.
The trim.
My slime.
It's just getting
Let's go.
it's getting higher and tighter as time goes on.
Now that's a haircut you can turn a watch to. You know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, I guess we are getting mindful about this beverage.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes. So the first thing that we use to kind of connect us to the conversation, get us present for the day, is we go through a few questions here about the drink that we're having. These are kind of new, but they come from this. Actually, my girlfriend Tiffany, she shared with me these questions, and it's something that she uses when she's doing like reviews of literature, like research papers or whatever. It's like it's a good way to start. So the questions are: what do you notice? What do you wonder? And what does it remind you of? So we can start with what do you notice? And Vince, when you drink this drink, what do you notice?
So are we just talking about like one sense field, or are we just talking about like the taste?
No, it's more broad. It's more broad.
Okay, let me see. She kind of thick, which is to be expected because it's a Bloody Mary.
Yeah. With
tequila instead of vodka.
Which I've never had before, actually, surprisingly.
And my taste buds, it's tasty, but it's kind of a weird taste. I can't tell if maybe my taste buds are fucked up because I smoked like 2 cigarettes last night, and that does it to me now. And I brushed my teeth like a half hour ago, but I don't know if that's like would still be effective.
Yeah, I can't wait for that Colgate Barsmith collaboration.
Oh yeah, put a little toothpaste in there. Get the day started right. It's like brushing your teeth and drinking at the same time.
Yeah,
I should be on their marketing team.
4 out of 5 dentists recommend.
Yeah. It's a little spicy. It's kind of acidic. It's good. I can feel it. I can feel it in my head. You know what I mean? Like a beverage and it makes you feel warm. That's probably the 2 shots of tequila I put in there.
Jake, what about you?
I'm noticing that I am not retching. I am, in fact, really enjoying this because I'm not typically a Bloody Mary fan. I don't know if it's this mix in particular or if actually the whole time it's been the fact that I thought it should be tequila instead of vodka.
Yeah.
And
that's what
I could drink this all the live long day. I mean, I am enjoying this quite a bit. So I'm noticing that I'm full of joy and that I will continue to drink this without wincing, which is wonderful.
Good.
Rick, what are you noticing?
Yeah, that leads me to notice that every time we have a Bloody Mary together, you like it. But every time you like a Bloody Mary, you also say that you don't like Bloody Marys. But I, for one, have never seen you have a Bloody Mary that you don't like.
Well, maybe it was the friends I made along the way. Okay. Also, Vince, when you were saying taste buds, I haven't heard that in a while, and I kind of realized maybe that's what we should call this segment.
That's fun.
Welcome to Taste Buds. But then maybe that's the whole show. I don't know. Anyway, Rick, so what else are you noticing?
I am noticing I like the spice. Yeah, I like spicy Bloody Marys. I don't actually notice a whole lot of difference between having it with vodka and tequila, personally. I think that there's maybe just like a little bit more smoothness. There's not that kind of like astringent vodka flavor that can kind of come through, especially with like lower quality vodkas. So I'm not really tasting the alcohol much differently.
For sure.
President Lincoln says there seems to be a flaw in Jake's Bloody Mary logic.
You're saying there's a flaw in my bloody logic? In me Bloody Mary logic? Is that right, Linkhold? Well, okay then. Maybe we won't meet in real life. Okay.
You've really released the beast.
You've been banned. We have a
I'm curious what other people think of Bloody Marys in the chat, and maybe I won't feel so alone with President Linkhold telling me mean things. But it's fine. It's fine.
The next question is, what do you wonder?
Yeah, go ahead. What do we wonder?
So, since you mentioned earlier the difference between what kind of Bloody Mary mix do you have, Jake?
I have just the spicy Barsmith, not Nashville spicy.
So what's the difference between spicy and Nashville spicy? Because like there's this like barbecue thing, like Nashville barbecue or Nashville hot chicken sandwich, like Nashville this, like Tennessee style barbecue. And I don't know if it's my mind just making me think that, or if I have like, my taste buds are fucked up, like I said. But I'm tasting a little barbecue sauce in here, and I'm wondering if there's barbecue sauce in this. Because people put all kinds of shit in Bloody Marys.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like anchovies in there and like bacon and shit like that. It's just kind of, you can get kind of excessive with it if you want. So.
Well, there's none of that. But there is Rochester sauce concentrate.
Is that
Not
like Worcestershire? Worcestershire?
Distilled.
Worcestershire. But it's from a different area of England.
Yeah, it's
I'm from Worcestershire,
neighbor.
England. I'm from Rochestershire, England. And that's,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
where-
the difference between Nashville and spicy.
yeah. That
Yeah.
that was the first arms race in the condiment world. Was Warshire versus Roshire.
Rochester.
Uh,
I can't even speak English.
Wow. What do I wonder? I wonder what people in the chat think about Bloody Marys. What's everyone's journey been? I'm curious to get the folks involved so I can feel less alone about my journey of Bloody Marys, because I think a lot of people either love them or hate them, and I feel like I'm right now right in between, which feels different, which feels fun.
President Lincoln redeemed an IRL word ban, so we can't say "you" for a minute.
We can't say the word "you."
Yeah, YOU.
Okay.
I think you snuck in under that buzzer.
I like that.
I just
like
said it.
that a
Okay.
lot. I love this chaos factor that's happening.
Going forward. Okay.
I like this this idea of wondering the Nashville part of hot. I do think about that. Usually, like when people say it's Nashville hot, to me it just kind of talks about they have some options that are way too hot. Anytime I go to like a Nashville hot wing place, they always have the one that has like a warning sticker on it and like radioactive stickers, and you order it. If you even order it, they're like, "Are you
Are you sure?
It's
Right.
it's really hard to not say the Y word. And
Is thou sure?
is thou
Just
sure?
thou,
Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
the true Nashville way. And one time, I'll just tell a brief story. One time I went to Southern here in St. Louis, and have y'all been there? They're a Nashville chicken place. It's Rick Lewis, who does now Grace Meat 3. And in front of me, there's this dude. He had no hair on his head. This is important for the story. Walked up, ordered the hottest one. The person at the register was like, "Thou'st sure?" And they were like, "Yes, very sure." And like said it so confidently, the person behind the counter didn't do anything else. Didn't put up anything. Yeah. And then I see him sit down, get the wings, and just starts eating them. He's there alone and just like sucks them down, and the whole time like his whole body is just getting redder and redder, and I can see it on his head, and his head is like the color of this Bloody Mary by the time he's gone. But he finishes off like a whole order, like no big deal, like that's just Tuesday lunch. And that's the way he rolls. Drops his tray off and just walks out like casually. I thought it was really impressive.
Was it the guy from Hot Ones? Because is he bald?
He is.
So maybe
It was practice.
Maybe that was, I don't know. Maybe you had a celebrity in your midst, Rick.
Wow. What's that? What's
I mean,
that guy's
did he
name?
have that same body type?
No, he was older.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's like
Maybe,
a
maybe it
old
was his
man.
dad.
Maybe it was his dad. Maybe he comes from a long lineage of hot stars.
Hot boys.
Hot bald boys.
All right, our segment's wrapping on into infinity. The last question is,
Yes.
what does it remind you of?
Hold on. Memories. All right, I'm immediately triggered to. I used to go to Southwest Diner a lot. That's one of those places with those like really extra Bloody Marys. They got like bacon and stuff in there, which like, I mean, bacon's like cool and all, but I'm not one of these people that's like bacon everything. Like it's like manliest cooking show ever. We made a cake with bacon in it and shit like that. And then I'm triggered to another memory where my dad was like, we went to some fucking restaurant and he wasn't driving for once, and he rarely drinks, but he was getting turned up on those Bloody Marys, and he just was like, yeah, and he was just getting fucking drunk, right? He just was like, oh, give me another Bloody Mary, and then he started slurring his words, and he kept saying, give me another Bloody Mary. It's like, dude, what happened?
Wow.
What happened to you, Dad? That's what it makes me think of, and I still am thinking about barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
In the chat here, see Alex says, "Oh my goodness, is this real?" Maybe. Maybe
Thou
it is.
better believe it.
Is anything real up in this stuff?
Southwest Dina's the best, and Danny Baby Boy, all caps, yells "Baconator" from a dark room somewhere. Under the covers somewhere. Danny Baby Boy with a pacifier in his mouth yells "Baconator."
What does it remind me of? It reminds me of kind of Fazoli's flavor. Kind of like.
Is that a bad thing?
No,
Oh.
I love Fazoli's. I miss Fazoli's.
Wow.
Honestly, one time I got spaghetti there like a fool. I don't know what you're supposed to get instead, but there was like hair in it.
Oh God.
Not like a hair. There was hair,
Bro.
plurals in it. And I'll stop there because it was really bad. But
Jesus.
I have beautiful memories of going to Fazoli's with my mom out in O'Fallon, and it's Mother's Day. Hello, shout out. Mom's in the chat. Hi, Mom. Yeah, the breadsticks are bussin' respectfully, and I don't know. That's what it brought me to. Rick, how about thou?
I have a really quick question before. Let me.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Jake, for you. Was it angel hair pasta?
Probably. Most assuredly, actually. It
Okay.
was.
No,
Oh,
no,
God.
I'm not gonna do that again.
Oh,
Jeez.
I this is what people show up for.
For the wings of the angel.
Funding for the
That's
travel
what I want our show to be like all the time. So.
Funding for the travel agency and art brunch was provided by the Luminary's Futures Fund Regranting Initiative.
Shout out to the Luminary.
Woo! Thanks for this, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Illuminate stuff. Or luminary
Beautiful
things.
moment.
For
Oh my gosh.
me, you know, I've drank way more Bloody Marys for this show and for this production than I've drank Bloody Marys in the rest of my life combined. So now there's this weird, like, reciprocal kind of like looping effect. Like I'm a looper right now. I'm like kind of somewhere between like a jumper and a looper. And I've just find myself kind of either looping or jumping through different versions of alternate Bloody Mary timelines. This one's a good one.
How does it feel to like routinely drink like every Sunday?
Yeah.
You're creating a pattern for yourself. So like,
I don't like drinking, actually.
yeah, man, we could have just had tea.
It's like
good.
the
It's
only
cool.
only time I drink is all of the shows on the travel agency. It's like every show has a drinking element in it from time to
Just
time.
torturing yourself. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say half of them have been non-alcoholic, certainly.
Okay.
Actually,
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like majority have been most recently. This is
Mhm.
first time. Well, I guess last week with Vaughn we did
Beer Mosa,
but
yeah.
That was
But previous to that,
so we're kind
yeah.
of back on track as far as the alcohol. But
Yeah.
either way,
Let's catch up with the chat here. Elior says,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
do you remember Bosco sticks? Bosco sticks were solid.
do I remember Bosco sticks? Well, Elior and I went to the same high school, so I know exactly which ones Elior is talking about. Those were fire.
Wow.
Proper.
That's some
Proper
OG
sticks.
Bosco connection. I feel like they're probably all the same though, like across schools everywhere. Like there was one Bosco stick manufacturer.
For sure, but you like the way you prepare them and like
I
the
see.
heating facility it sits in while it waits for you to be purchased, I think is probably if you had like a really nice one with proper heating lamp and
The
like
taste of the
bulbs been
oven.
replaced.
The taste
Yeah,
of the
right.
the cafeteria oven is what changes. I get that.
We had days where there was like regular Bosco sticks, and then days are regular breadsticks, and then there's days where there was Bosco sticks.
Yeah.
Oh,
So people would go real crazy when the Bosco sticks came out. 'Cause they were just a whole different level than the regular breadsticks.
regular bread. No, school breadsticks, all bad.
The bread beyond compare, as you will.
Danny Baby
Guys,
Boy
I'm
says Chef Boyardee with a drive-through, throwing shade at Fazoli's. Linkold also said took angel hair too seriously, which is disgusting, and I'm glad we're moving on from that because I'm the host and I have control of this show.
Yes, you do.
Laura says congrats on the grant. Thank you. Elior says my Bosco brother and brother
There's
Bosco.
a moment happening, Rick. There's a moment happening.
Uh-oh.
A Bosco.
Look at this chat.
They're meeting.
Well, it's just Elior and Laura. We all went to Clayton, so we all have this.
Y'all know the flavor of the oven.
We know, yes, we all know that lovely. Okay, y'all, and then there was this like pink smoothie that everyone would get. Do y'all remember that? And like no one remembered the flavor, but it was just like pink and delicious, and it tastes kind of like sweet tarts. I miss it every day, and I wish I could have the pink smoothie. It was such a good thing, and I'm gonna leave it there for local Twitter here today. So,
Greg Stevens 420 aptly says the flavor of love. President Lincoln
Bosco.
threatens another mutiny.
oh no, oh no.
I think the whole pancake mukbang was the outcome of President Lincoln's mutiny.
I believe it.
All right, our tweets of the week.
Lincoln is like my favorite character in the chat. I'm like, always, I don't.
Speaking of local Twitter, yeah, Rick, let's get into
Our
it.
tweets of the week. Is that what we're calling it? Tweet
Yeah.
art.
This is
Okay,
great because I don't use Twitter and I have no idea what the hell is about to happen. I mean, I saw like part of the show last week, but like full disclosure, I'm not a tweeter.
I see.
I have been trying to limit my time
You're
on social media.
More a sub,
possible.
more a sub kind of guy than a tweeter, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
For sure.
subreddit.
yeah.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
This is the second time we're doing
Guys,
it, so
right now.
we don't know
Um,
what the fuck we're doing either. 'Cause- so we're all in the same boat. Can you
Great.
see this video? Okay.
Maybe I can enlarge. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay.
I just,
Jake,
oh,
you want
know
to
what?
set us
now I'm
up for
getting
this?
Yes. So, okay. Welcome to Art Tweets of the Week, where I feel like I've done anything useful over the past week and find art-related tweets for us to discuss on the show. So now I'm being, it's something that feels like a sense of duty. So we go through various tweets, we talk about it, and it opens up discussion. It's great. We love it. We did it last week for the first time with Vaughn. I felt really good about it. Here we are again for our second week. I actually can see the tweets this time as opposed to the tiny little screen over here where I see what's happening behind the scenes. So I have them over here and I can actually give proper love. So this week, we're going to start with this very first one. There's a video. You guys can see this. We get it.
Yeah, sure. What is happening here?
Megan
Hold on,
Mix.
it's way too loud. Okay.
Oh,
Are you ready
am I
for me to play
screaming?
it? No, it was way
yeah,
too
go
loud
ahead
on my
and-
side. We don't need audio for this.
Going to Williamsburg is what it
Going to
says.
Williamsburg.
Play that.
Line of people. Big line of people.
Let's see. So we got a line of people. Looks like it's maybe for brunch. Very topical for us here. Passing that corner and returning. There's a lot of moms, families, and what do we see? But maybe pause it there, Rick, if you can.
Yeah.
We've got
This damn Audi.
yeah, maybe just right towards the end there. Oh wait. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we have some giant wings that people pose with, which honestly to me is very Nashvilleian because I feel like that's where a lot of people do that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I honestly think that, based off the folks that were in the line, I don't think that was Williamsburg, but maybe that was like an
No.
allusion to equivalently Williamsburg. I'm like almost assured.
Where is Williamsburg? I don't even know.
Brooklyn in New York,
Oh, okay.
or there's Williamsburg, Missouri, which is really funny to me every
Yeah,
time
it's
I see
probably in
that.
Williamsburg in every state. Oh, Florida.
Yeah.
Nashville,
So
it's Tennessee. Next to
I'm
Nashville.
curious to this group here and people in the chat. How do we feel about these things? About giant angel wing painting or butterfly wings, whatever these may be. They look kind of lacy. And there's now a giant line around the block to get these photos. Let me ask this:
It's incredibly
is it
organized.
public art? Is it public art? I'm curious your thoughts, Vincent.
Yes, it's public art. Do I like it? Not necessarily. I think when you like go through academia and like art school, people like tell you not to use the words like or dislike, but I don't really like it. It's not really anything special to me. And I think the oversaturation of this kind of shit on social media makes it worse. It's like when you eat the same shit every day and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Like maybe you like don't eat a Big Mac for a long time and you're like, oh, this Big Mac's fucking delicious. I don't know what the fuck this secret sauce is. Thousand Island dressing probably, but I'm gonna contemplate that and that's delicious. But after you eat that shit like every day or once a week for like a month just because you have to, it's like worse. So getting that shit pumped through your social media is like makes it terrible. But congrats to the artists. They're probably world famous or maybe not. This might be a ripoff of the original. I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people doing the exact same design at the same time too, because it's like not that crazy. That's how I feel about it. I'm also curious why Jake thought that these people were in line for brunch, and I'm guessing it's based on like how they were dressed and the demographic. But you know, brunch generally has like a negative connotation. Sorry about the show. Maybe you guys named it at an untimely time, but there's like you know, like oh, we're going back to brunch. You know, and like, it's like there's a specific demographic that kind of.
We are total neoliberal shills who are trying to just go back to brunch, you know, we were out at the Women's March and we could have been at brunch, but we're here instead. Damn it.
Yeah, but like you know, it's like, you know, and I probably sound kind of pretentious because like maybe it sounds like oh maybe I'm like these people aren't cultured or whatever, but like this shit's whack. I don't know.
It's one thing.
I wish more people would like go like pose by like graffiti murals and stuff instead of just like oh here's and like part of this is really because like it's a picture of a person, so like people really love having their picture taken. It like validates them when they post on social media and they get a bunch of likes, and so like this can have them to where they can like have that you know serotonin rush when you get all the likes or whatever, that dopamine that pumps through your system whenever you get approval from other people, you know. So that's really what this is about. It's not about the art.
So can we contrast that to Cloudgate and in Chicago? So like, you know, like as we like kind of tried to navigate the craft of this, like this is kind of like I don't know, like it's interesting to think like what the public is drawn to, or like the uninitiated or unwelcomed public into art spaces, and like it's both Angel Wings and Cloudgate simultaneously. Like I feel like it's the same. That would be the same people that are in that line that are going to see, you know, the Anish Kapoor's work in Chicago and Millennium Park. The Bean, other people might.
But
the Bean,
also like
refer to it.
Okay, art school, Rick. Okay, it's the
like
Bean.
A part of the Bean though is that like people can take selfies with it, and they can take a mirror selfie that's distorted. So like the Bean has always been awesome and like cool and stuff, and like you know maybe I would like these wings a little bit more if I hadn't seen them so much. Yeah. But like you know the Bean is like something where people can go take a selfie again and like be like hashtag Chicago, and it's just like this over reproducing of the image that just happens is like this oversaturation, you know. And do
you think that the Bean is...
I don't have the same feeling I would if I've seen something for the first time.
Do you think the Bean is more didactic than these wings, like for people interacting with it, or do you think it like kind of operates on the same level?
There's definitely more ways to interact with it. I mean, you can go like under it, kind of inside it. There's multiple different reflections that you can take selfies with. It was interesting because I was in Chicago a couple weekends ago, actually with Vaughn, who was on the show last week, if you're just tuning in. But
wow, third co-host.
The entire like it was blocked off because they didn't want people getting close. They didn't want people getting like really close to each other. So it was like really crazy to see like the influencers like posing in front of like this like gated off Cloudgate, and then everyone's like just standing against like the barrier. And so like people are like taking selfies, and there's like influencers that are like walking towards a dude holding a camera, and then it's just like in front of like a bunch of people who can't actually get to Cloudgate. And like
It's best
it was
iteration.
pretty weird.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, Vaughn, I don't think had ever been to Cloudgate or to Millennium Park. So he was like, yeah, man, this is cool. I wish we could get closer to it. And I was like, yeah, you know, but like at the same time, it's kind of just like, there's also this aspect of it's like a giant, you know, it's like a giant funhouse mirror, which is like cool. I don't know. I think for me, it's like, I like all kinds of art. Like, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But like the stuff I'm mostly interested in, well, honestly, it's like really, and this is really biased, but like the stuff I'm mostly interested in is probably stuff that it's like from people that I know. And like I think the reason being is that like I can ask them a ton of questions about it and have conversations around it. Which is the same reason like I like art that has like a lot of content in it and a lot of different meanings and a lot of entry points. Which like Cloudgate has that, and maybe there's not so many entry points for someone who's viewing these wings, where it becomes
for lacy
just
butterfly wings in Nashville.
yeah, where it just becomes a place for people to take selfies, and it's like they're lining up to take selfies. They probably feel pressured to get their selfie and then leave instead of like actually like observing whatever kind of art making's happening and whatnot.
Yeah,
you know,
or the transformative quality of that. I mean, we could see this as kind of like this aspirational or transformative opportunity for somebody, but first of all, I think the line is like really well organized for something like this. I thought it would just be like some sort of just an amalgamation of people like
good job, human,
getting in people's ways, but yeah, I mean, there's no time when it's like such a commodity. Danny Baby Boy says, you know, when you go to the fair and they have those prop painted scenes with cutout faces and you stick your head in to take a souvenir photo. That's basically what it is. Right?
You know, which is like,
it's two-dimensional, like, very flat.
It's a lot better than nothing, you know, like I'm not hating, like I do think it's cool. Like anytime anyone's making anything that's not like racist or fucking just makes them look like a piece of shit, like I'm happy. Anything that's not like destructive in like those kinds of ways, I'm happy people are making shit rather than like doing something destructive. And like there's always that aspect when I look at anything, you know, where it's like pretty awesome that people can make stuff, you know. And just like, but there's also like the fact like there's all this like other political shit that plays into it, like how much privilege you have to make something actually, you know. You have to have time and space to make things. But that's the cool thing about like street art or public art, especially with like painting and like wheat pasting, is that, you know, you don't necessarily have to have a space to make something. And you can just make something regardless. In St. Louis, there's a flood wall, and like you can actually just go paint on it, and that's pretty awesome. Like if I ever want to paint big and I don't have a space to do it, like I could go down there, and I have gone down there a few times with like several different homies and just like painted shit.
I bet a lot of people in the chat probably have done that, or folks that
there's like a different type of like agency that you can take when you're like doing stuff like that.
For sure.
And like that's the awesome part about it. And like it is like cute and whatever to like have your picture taken from his wings, whatnot.
Right.
But,
well, and I just want to note very briefly.
What's that?
There's the lights above it, so it's actually, I guess you can get a night selfie too, which is interesting. For me. But what if I told you this is actually a Banksy? Rick, I think we should jump to our last tweet.
To the last tweet?
I think we should jump to the Dean one.
Yeah.
What time we have, and we like to talk here, so this is.
Yeah. I just want to catch up here. Elior says the bean also was a thing before selfies were, and Vince, when you were saying about like your favorite things being what people are like, what your friends are making, you being most interested to that, Elior says yes, Vince, I love you. So I wanted to share that love. We like public displays of affection here, virtually and socially distant public displays of affection here on the travel agency. You are watching Art Brunch. If you're enjoying the stream, hit that follow button so you can catch up with all of our streams when we go live. So this is the last tweet that you had on the list here, Jake, if you want to.
Yes, and I love what I'm finding out about this segment is that depending on who we have on the show, we can either get through like one tweet or like four, just depends on what our guest wants to say. So Vincent, you have so much great stuff to say. This is wonderful. So we're going to jump to this last part, which I think actually segues from what we're saying. This is from at Dean Kissick. We had one of his tweets last week. I foresee this just going to be the Dean segment at some point.
Yeah.
Great writer, works for Spike magazine. Anyway, go check out Dean Kissick. The dominant art form of the last 5 years has been performance, as in everyone's performing a role. And the dominant medium is personality, identity, and body. So honestly, I feel like from an extremely broad spectrum of what this can mean, I mean, from even just the last tweet we were talking about, I think that there's something of like, okay, I made this work so people would get selfies with it. So then the performance is that they get pictures with it to be put on Instagram. So thus I get,
so I perform. So I perform my poll analytics. Yeah.
But then the person in the art itself is also performing, whether or not they have the sort of quote unquote artist mindset of like, I'm doing a performance. So I feel like that's kind of interesting too, in that, I don't mean to over, analyze this a bit. And this is, again, a very broad comment here, but I mean, is that not part of this idea of performance has been the actual art of the last 5 years?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to say 5 years, but anyway.
Yeah, like I feel like this conversation is about to get fucking like hyper meta because
let's go.
Like,
that's what we're
let's
here
fucking go. So like I'm reading this tweet and I'm like looking at the words, and so like when I write, I'll find myself repeating words a lot, and like in grad school I learned that that's not a good look. Redundancy is not a good look. So you take one of the words and you look it up in the thesaurus and you use a different word. And so like using art form and medium in the same phrasing, he says the dominant art form and the dominant medium. And I'm kind of like, art form and medium, those are really close to meaning the same thing. But I'm also like wondering like, I don't know, for me it's different. Like, I think like everything's a performance. Like we're performing right now. Like we have to, whether or not we like want to acknowledge it, we are like abiding by certain social standards and like acting a certain way because we're being viewed by however many people. I can't even tell in the chat. It doesn't matter. But like the fact is like we're in front of cameras and this is kind of like controlling the way we act in a way. And we're acting along those whatever lines are imposed. So like connecting it to that painting on the angel wings is like a good way to kind of ground this statement because it's a little ungrounded to me. Like I do see that a lot of artists are concerned with identity and the body. But I also think that those things have been ever present in art the whole time.
Right.
It's just as a matter of if you're willing to acknowledge it or not. So like if we can look back in art history, and I was lucky enough to take a class in grad school with a professor named Ivy Cooper, who she's art history buff, she's art historian. She has several like published writings, and she's just a really, really intelligent person. I'm really like grateful to have had her on my side the whole time. I took a class with her that was just like, it was just like a survey of art history. And like the way the class was split up was so that there's you're basically using different forms of art theory to, hold on, I gotta let my dog out. Look at this guy.
Hi, Larry.
Dog in the chat, Larry!
Oh. Well, we can jump in here.
Yeah.
Well, or maybe not. I don't know.
I think it's
This is on a roll,
arm's distance.
Okay, so we're gonna analyze like someone's like identity in art history through like a post-colonial Marxist, feminist like queer theory practice. Like we're gonna look at like how like traditionally like when you walk through art museums, mainly what you see is like a bunch of just like old white dudes and then like everything else is like somehow kind of like fetishized and pushed off into its own sections, where it's like this, like being at the artist too last week. Same, it's kind of the same in like every museum. But like you can walk through and see like, oh, this is the Indian art section, this is the Islamic and Middle Eastern art section, but they have nothing contemporary from people from those places. It's just like ancient stuff that has probably been taken from a temple somewhere without consent, and like that shit happens like continuously, like just straight up fucking Indiana Jones like colonizing shit. And so like, you know what I mean? Like so like let's look at that personality and that identity in that body. Like these like old like privileged like white dudes take up the most space in art history in our museums. So like we can, it's just now that we're really starting to kind of focus on these things, because it's in everyone's forefront. You know, you can't get on social media without like, you know, at least like during like George Floyd and stuff, you couldn't get on social media without like seeing like some form of like gesture of people talking about it. Even if it was just like that black square, which is like a high key like virtue signaling thing, that is like still like something where it's like you can't get away from thinking about these things and thinking about your place and your role in society and the systems that we're all taking part in, you know. And like so I really actually like this statement, but I think about it as a way like, is like, how do you perform in your body throughout the day? How do you move through space? And how do you like use your identity and your like your performative identity to like move things? And are you using the things that you have access to that other people don't have access to in a way that like can be helpful? You know, like how are you contributing to society on a larger scale is something I think about a lot with art, because our art is going to always like outlive us for the most part. But if we're going to talk about performance art, you know, one big thing about performance art in itself is that it's like an ephemeral thing. It's not meant to be something that's kept. And the only way it's able to be kept is through documentation.
Right.
And like,
go ahead. Sorry.
So the dominance, like, is the dominance he's referring to the fact that everything is a performance? Or is it something else? I'm not completely sure.
Well, and there's something to it, I think, as far as like access, right? Because like you can be on Instagram and see your friend's post next to a giant corporation's post, or you know, like whatever, you know, next to art form or something, let's just say. So like this idea of like performance is kind of usurped in the traditional sense, because it's not about, it's performance in the digital space. Is that inherently performance as we've known it prior? So performance itself is being, I think, redefined, but then beyond that, access to the internet is not perfect. It's definitely not perfect, but the average person, I would say, I think is a safe bet, has access to the internet or has some version of a smartphone or access to social media, and that as an art form and as a space to share those things is been leveled in a lot of ways. So this, I kind of don't see how it couldn't be that art performance or personality or identity or body, because people are so desperate to share their experiences, and that's what we encourage people to do on the internet, is to share. You know, it's a
requirement. It's a requirement of participation. It's a requirement of continuing to have visibility. Is your participation, and I think what people are understanding, we can see, which I like to zoom into, like the Instagram story as kind of like the most relevant art space on Instagram right now versus the post, is that's, you know, like the Snapchat, right, was kind of like the first iteration of that, is this performative participatory action that like brings you up in the algorithm as someone who participates. And as we like differentiate ourselves through performance, we get these positive reaffirmations of worth from the algorithmic overlords.
And so like everybody has a camera almost. I don't want to say everybody, because I feel like there's like also this like imposed thing is like I had a job once where like they required us to like download an app on your phone, and that's how you got your schedule. And like I didn't have a smartphone, so like I couldn't download an app, and it just was like this like absolutely fucking like classist thing. I think it's more likely for people to have smartphones now because you can buy older ones for cheaper, so there's like a little bit more accessibility in that realm. But then it's like, yeah, like I also think about things like TikTok, and it's like maybe by dominant he means like the most like prolific like one that's happening. It's like, dude, everybody's trying to put themselves on TikTok, you know, and it's like do the dances and all that shit, and like, you know, put a video of your dog running to that guy with a fucking soundbite where it's like fast as fuck, boy, you know, and that kind of shit. But like, you know, and that's like, you know, that's performance, you know, and the fact that everybody has a camera creates a way for everyone to document it. So I can see more maybe that's the direction he's talking about. You know, I mean, I'm kind of disconnected from all that. Like I've downloaded TikTok to try to like watch a few TikToks, and then I have to just like delete it. Like I don't know why I need so many different methods for someone to get a hold of me. Like if you want to talk to me, you can email me. You can hit me up on the social media that I do have, which is Instagram, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't want to keep downloading more and more social media and like
or chess.com. You can hit him up on chess.com. Yeah,
I'm getting better.
Hit my chess.com.
Actually, you know, the dominant art form for me is chess.com.
Yeah, that's the best place for performance.
Our Lord and Savior, Hakura Nakamura. All right, on that note, let's take our first break here. We're going to reset up our pieces. We're going to take 10 minutes here, and yeah, President Linkhold is on that chess.com too, so I'll link you two up. I'll link you two up later. President Linkhold is pretty damn good. Really frustrates me a lot of times. All right, so we're going to take our first break here for 10 minutes. Over the break, you're going to see some commercials from some of the other shows that we do. Again, if you like the show, if you like the content, hit that follow button. Lots of our stuff is scheduled. You can find it on our Instagram, but I like to put up a cheeky secret stream now and then. So if you follow, you always get access to that. We will be right back.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
This project started to coalesce. I started to realize that travel agents and travel agencies first are going away. And I think that those words and that term and the beauty of that is so nice that I don't ever want it to leave. I don't want it to be replaced with Expedia. So I felt like kind of a personal responsibility as an artist to take care of that gray space of like what is going to happen to this word, what is going to happen to these terms, and find something that really feels like it fits it. So the travel agency operates kind of on this principle that many people who engage with the contemporary art community are tourists. And it's very difficult for people traveling to a new place for the first time to feel comfortable in that space. And the thing that the travel agency does, or travel agents do, is they use their expertise to translate local culture and norms to a tourist, to a visitor. And the process of giving that to them and making it clear to them is a way of like welcoming them into these beautiful new experiences.
But it's funny that you bring up Kiki's now, Kiki Salem's piece, which I feel like is totally so much different than L's piece.
Right.
This one feels very, it is meant to be empowering and implicating the viewer and the reader in a very direct way. So I feel like, and maybe more people took pictures of themselves in front of Kiki's piece because of that empowering aspect of it.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we can like talk a little bit too about like the digital audience. Like I think Kiki's particularly, this one was like reshared so many times, and was just like, it was really cool to see how far it spread that way. They didn't have to be there, to take a photo. They could just share the image that we took. But for them, it was like sharing her PSA.
There are a couple of things. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was kind of the most contrast of like, this is one that I saw a lot more interaction with on social, or a lot more people kind of like being a part of this image. I feel like this speaks, like this is one that you step into, and you can own this message for yourself and engage in this message for yourself. And there are a couple of other things that change with this one. The banner style of the text is very unique and divergent for the scope of what we see PSA typically do. And and then I'm not actually sure of the timing of this, but I think that looking at this one and then also looking at Jessie Donovan's billboard, and thinking about them as like similar materials as well. So there's like this banner material, and then this like I think most often billboards are kind of like this tarp-like banner, vinyl tarp material, and we have a detail of it here. Okay.
That's hand embroidery by Kiki.
Oh, wow.
That was a nice touch that she added to it as well.
Yeah.
Kiki works a lot with fiber arts, so
yeah, maybe that's why we were kind of drawn to working on, or we talked about doing banners with her, and she was really on board. She also like does tapestries in her work and a lot of fiber, so I think it really makes sense.
A big part of the banner decision for Kiki's work was because we wanted to accommodate the Arabic text, and so the way our infrastructure set up, it would have been difficult to cut out the Arabic text and place that. It wouldn't have fit on the wires so well, so that's why we opted for a banner approach.
That there are a lot of portrait work, but then there's also a lot of graphic design with some 3D elements on there. I'm looking, do you see the one that I'm showing right now?
Yeah, I can see that. That's titled either Ritual 1 or Ritual 2, but they're kind of based off me looking into like historically, like coming from like African roots, how we like use rituals like throughout time as Black people, whether it's from Africa, the Caribbean, like American Black people. I feel like regardless of where you're located, like the idea of like ritual and like spirituality has always like played a huge part in the culture as a whole. So this is me kind of like not direct. This is not like a direct like, oh, this comes from this spiritual practice, but it's definitely like a shout out to spirit boards and divination, and like the different ways that we would use like fortune telling and different things like that. So this is kind of like a representation of that practice, like having shapes, and like in different tribes in Africa, like they'll paint shapes on their houses and on their huts to represent certain ideas, whether it's like goddesses or representing protection or whatever. So this is like my take on symbols that to me represent protection, but also historically, like the triangle, the pyramids, or the idea of the eye and like mirrors, like reflecting back to you. So it's a lot of that, like a lot of personal interpretation about like divination and spirituality, but also like historical as well.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Club Stars Line. I'm your co-host Jake Leach, and to my left on your screen is my mom, Denise Hewlett. Hi mom, how you doing?
Oh, hi son, how are you? We ready to do
I'm
this
doing quite
today?
peachy. Yeah, we're gonna do this today. Well, so a lot has happened. I'm already out of breath. My God, we're just so hype in this. Mom, you're kind of somewhere else. The people can't really see, but we've got you're actually in space. It looks like.
Yeah.
So you're looking back onto the planet. Did you take like a Tesla rocket? Are you at the International Space Station? Where are you exactly right now?
That is a view of the Earthrise, and no, I am not in the space station. I am in my transit van in the high desert in Joshua Tree, California. That's where I'm from. Shall we go ahead and show people? Should we
Yes,
do the
show
big
people where you're at. Let's take a
so
look
let me
here.
go ahead and open the van door.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Kind of bright, y'all. Can you see it?
Yeah, Mom, here, bring your computer over so people can kind of see.
Am I doing the right?
Yeah,
part two?
that's. Why don't you go out and stand in it real quick, Mom, just to prove that it's not a green screen.
Hello, y'all.
Exit the van entirely. Go. This ain't no joke, y'all. Yeah, there she is, out in the world. We love to see this. Yes, bye, Denise. My mom said, or my mom, little Miss Gabby says, we got the chat blowing up over here.
Oh my goodness.
Ghost riding
All
the
right.
whip over here. So.
Okay, so we will be checking on the sunset periodically over the next hour and a half, but right now it is blazing, so I need to close it. So here we go.
Okay, yes. Get that door closed here, nice and cool.
Yes. Although, speaking of blazing, I also have my, can you see this?
Yeah, what do we have here?
My UFO incense thing going. So just to complete the whole thing, you know.
It's a full sensory overload, a full sensory experience you have going on here.
Isn't that interesting, Jake? Isn't that interesting?
Is that something that might come up later on?
That might, exactly.
Okay.
So here we go. Now, this is going to be loud. Okay,
All right, here we go, friends.
Yeah, okay, ready?
Everyone cover your ears. Okay. Ooh, goodness.
All right, we're back. I've muted our guests. You can't hear them. I can hear them. They're muted. They're safe, okay? They're safe. You don't have to worry about them. We're talking about saxophones. Let's get into it. Let's get back into it here with the homies.
Okay, fine. Way to muzzle us, Rick. We're artists.
I'm in control of this ship. No matter what anybody says, I have everything under control.
You can't do this to us.
I literally can.
Sing.
Across the break, yeah, thanks for hanging out and being here. Hope you like those commercials. Yeah, President Lincoln, it is visually stuttering kind of accidentally on purpose. I will fix it. There's some issue that was shot in 60 FPS and we're streaming 30 FPS, so there's some weird image stuttering with that. Welcome to the world of live streaming. So we're getting back into our conversation here to recap our how would you recap our first segments there, Jake?
I'd say we're almost to the bottom. I'd say we're checking in here.
Yeah.
We got it this far, but the rest, you can look forward to the rest of this madness. If that's what you got with this, think about what you're gonna get with the rest of this. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So we wanted to get into Vincent's work here. I kind of go seamlessly between calling you Vincent and Vince, which is strange.
How fucking dare you?
I think that when I say Vincent, I'm expressing, you know, my respect for you, and when I say Vince, I'm expressing my homie chess.com vibes for you.
I mean, there is like I do think like people are like, do you prefer Vincent or Vinny or Vince?
Vinny.
And people call me Vinny. You know, I'm down with it. I think there's also this like people like who will be like, are you Italian? It's like, no, I'm not. You know, it's like because they've seen like a mafia movie and it's like, oh, my cousin Vinny or whatever. Because they just want to say my
exactly.
Oh, you're my cousin Vinny. It's like, yeah, we're all gently related. You know, sure. But yeah, you can call me whatever you want, Rick. You know.
I have been.
Yeah, good. It's all good.
Yeah, don't worry.
There's a formality aspect. Like when I'm writing like any kind of formal thing, like a bio or like an application, I use Vincent because I think there's like a power dynamic, and then there's also the fact that these are not real glasses.
What?
But these are blue light glasses, so yes, it's protected. eyes, but like I do wear shit like this when I do job interviews because I think it makes me look smarter and that makes me feel more confident, shit like that. So there's a performtive aspect of being called Vincent as you.
Everyone's performing a role.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's this excerpt that my partner Tiffany sent me that says one technique that I learned was that it was attributed to a Japanese methodology. An Irish colleague told me about this learning the technique at a conference, being told it originated in Japan, but neither I nor anyone can trace any information about it. The way of discussing is simple. When someone asks something of importance, ask the question why 5 times, not as a cornering or an accusation, but as an exploration of some of the layers supporting what's important to them. And that really kind of sums up like how I like to approach conversations, just kind of like big C conversations, all conversations. But I think so, like, yeah, big C.
There's a difference, Jake. Okay.
Capital C. You get into that some other time. That's for the nighttime.
Is there a difference between capital C and a big C?
Yeah. I'll tell you after the show. It's the difference between like a capital D and a big D.
Excuse my French.
So yeah, no, I think that like as I felt like seeing when she sent me that and just like as a way of trying to understand and unpack the different layers that we collect and we move through as artists. And from our early conversations, Vincent, it seems that that's that's something that you're thinking about a lot is like the multiplicity of layers of meanings in your work. But to give us a place to start, I think one of the questions that I haven't asked for a while that I really love is, can you describe for us, to the best of your recollection, some of the earliest moments or expressions of creativity in your life? Like, I'm talking like early.
Oh, I love this.
Like pre-10.
Dude, I just have to express like how much I love this question.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, because this, man, fuck. It's Friday, baby. Fuck yeah. Fuck, baby. Friday. Yeah, fuck. That's a Twitch guy or a streamer or whatever. TikTok guy. If you know, you know. But anyway, damn. Okay. All right, Rick. I know we were like trying to like not be too emotional or whatever. Maybe we are. Okay, but like Mother's Day is like a little hard for me. But like my mom passed when I was really young, guys. My mom passed when I was like 6 years old. But one of the earliest memories of my mother is actually tied to my art making practice, and actually I think a lot of it is in a really tangential way. So when and this goes back to like my name too, and like how I spell my name and all this shit. So like I was doing like a little like finger painting, and I was like in the living room. My mom was like doing some cleaning around the house, and I did this like finger painting. There was like a little like green grass and some like purple flowers, like with like 3 or 4 petals, a little yellow in the middle. And my mom was like, all right, Vinny, like don't forget, like always like sign your artwork. And I was like, okay. And like I had kind of been learning how to spell. So I like tried to write my name. And after I tried to write it, I was like, oh shit, did I fuck up? And I was like, how do you spell Vinny? And she goes, some people spell it Vinny, some people spell it Vinnnie. And I go, what if I spelled it Vinney? And she was like, you can spell it however you want. It's your name. So from then on, when I write Vinny, I spell it that way. There has been times when people just write it the other way and I never correct them.
Yeah.
Like, I have to tell everyone the whole fucking story. But like that story like is like a really early art memory. From then, I mean, I always was kind of always making stuff. But there's like a lot of creative people in my family, like a lot of creative women. There's a lot of creative men too, but I think their creativity was like a little more like subdued. Like my dad is like really creative. There's things like I live with my dad right now. There's like things around the house that like he like has carved, things that he's painted, particularly like on furniture. So it has less of this like aspect of like it's an art piece and more of like it's like decoration on the furniture, even though like some of it's like crazy detailed and has like a lot of meaning. I might take you into the other room for a second, actually.
Sure.
To show you something. So my dad painted this, and I recently grabbed this from my grandfather's house who had passed on. But my dad painted this image on his like closet that he had when he was in like grade school, or not grade school, maybe like high school, like early college. But it's actually like it's like kind of a man on the moon image. But I was talking to him about it, and he said it's actually an image of someone that was from the Kent State Massacre, which adds like a whole nother meaning to it. So let me see if I can try.
Uh-oh. It's forbidden art. It's too good. You can't see it. You're not allowed to see it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Vincent can reconnect here in a second.
Just yes, and Mom, this story! exclamation point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just Jake and Rick. We're chilling. We'll get Vince back on. Vincent, or whatever we want to say here.
Yeah, the always sign your work part. I thought that was interesting. Thanks, Denise, for bringing that back up. And it does seem interesting because like that does connect the work that's being made with the self, so closely. And one of the things that I'll ask Vince when they get back on is kind of how that plays into, some of these ways that they're navigating identity through their work. But like I haven't signed much of my work until
I was gonna ask if you signed your work.
I sign it when I sell it, typically. Okay. So when somebody purchases something, then I will sign it, and I think that adds kind of like a moment of closure. I'll date it and sign it. But yeah, previous to selling work, which is the majority of the time of my life as an artist, I didn't sign it.
Interesting. When you did sign it, did it feel good?
You're good.
There we go. We're back.
All right. Should I try that again? I wonder if it's because yeah, it's just gonna fucking cut out again. Anyway, my internet sucks. Anyway, my dad painted this portrait on a fucking door of like an old cabinet, and it's like a man on the moon with this like crazy glorious beard, and like the mark making is like so clean, and it just is like. But I was like talking about it. He's like, yeah, that's an image of one of the victims of the Kent State Massacre. And it's like, he never he stays out of politics. He stays out of anything like emotional, and it just is like, damn, dude, like, were you like on some like revolutionary shit? What the fuck's going on here? So that's always been like kind of in my family on both ends. So like, and I'll probably talk about this like a lot in my work too. It's like I was raised by like a lot of different people. Being from like a single parent family, and like, come on, it's okay, come on. Sorry, my dog's in the chat.
Dog can.
But
here we go. That's what people do. Here we go.
Aww,
that's what the people
so sweet.
That's Larry, y'all. But like my grandma, so like I would like go stay with my grandma and my grandpa a lot, like while my dad was like working and stuff. They would kind of take care of me during the day sometimes, and when I wasn't at school and stuff. And my grandma was like always making art. She was always like doing like watercolors. She would do like a lot of drawings. Every year she would make like for all her grandkids, which she had a lot because that's like a really like Catholic side of the family. Like for some reason Catholic people seem to have a lot of kids. But my grandparents had like 9 or 10 kids, and like their kids all had kids, and so like that's a big ass family. But like she would always like for every person's like birthday and on the holidays she would make handmade like watercolor like Christmas and birthday cards for everyone. So like for the kids, like she'd be sitting there as like drawing and painting. She'd be like babysitting me, and she'd be like, "Do you want to paint or do you want to draw too?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I love drawing." So like, and then from then on, like every year she gave me a sketchbook for Christmas. So it was like a constant reinforcement of like art is like an okay thing to do. You know, it's not something that's gonna like. I think for a lot of families, there's like this thing where it's like, why would you ever make art? And that did happen like a little bit in my family too. Like, why would you pursue this as a career? Like, are you going to make money doing this? You know, those things are like important. Like, you got to survive. But that was like made to seem like a viable option to me because I also had like an aunt on the other side of my family who's an artist. She might be listening right now. I'm not sure. She said she was going to, but she's probably not in the chat. But anyway, Aunt Janice, yo.
Yeah.
Shout out. But she was always reinforcing that too. Like she was an artist. She made like really like experimental stuff, like photography type stuff and like installation art. And like being around that shit at a young age and like helping with some like these like big crazy art installations, like there's definitely like a really like high key influence of like her practice and mine. And similarly like with my grandma, like I recently like inherited like someone hit me up and was like, "Hey, I know someone getting rid of a kiln and like some like ceramic equipment. Do you want that stuff?" Because like someone's like grandmother had passed on, and like she was like made a lot of ceramics and did a lot of watercolors. And there was a lot of watercolor paper and stuff, so I just took a bunch of that too because they were just like, take whatever you want. So like not really having access to like a studio where I can make paintings, I had been like doing like over the past few months like a bunch of like drawing / watercolors. And like right now I'm realizing that like that's definitely linked to my grandma. You know, and like being in these spaces can always bring, you know, making art can always bring you back to those spaces as a child if you had that experience. There's like a somatic like connection. There's a connection of like the way a brush feels in your hand, you know, or like how the pencil feels on the paper, you know, and like those things like are always really close to my practice. And I think like, you know, part of one thing I try to remember when I go into the studio is to like remember why I started making art in the first place. You know, to kind of free myself of like expectations and free myself of like giving a fuck about what other people think. Like art is like a practice of like expression and freedom versus like expectation. I think when we're children, we make art for a completely different reason than we do when we move into a career or as adults. But I think like if you try to like reclaim that kind of like childlike nature, it can be really helpful in your art practice.
How do you characterize that difference? What do you think the different reasons are that you make art as a professional artist versus a child? Or are you said you're trying to align those?
I try to channel those. That childlike nature, and like I do want to say that like there's also like a spiritual aspect to that where like I have practiced Zen Buddhism on and off for about 8 years now. And there's a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, where the Zen practice is essentially something to try to like refresh your mind and free you of judgment. And I do think that like being in the public eye and like you know, trying to show work at museums and also being in like academia and art school for so long leads a person to think a certain way and to kind of have more of that performative aspect where like I think there probably is a performative aspect when you're a child, but there's also like this like aspect of like just the fun of it and this kind of play. And like I do think like a lot of my subject matter is not necessarily like the most lighthearted stuff. There's always an aspect of like experimentation and play. Like I'm always able to entertain myself and keep myself very present in my art practice because I'm able to like enjoy what I'm doing. And I just think that there's a lot of kind of academic thought and critical thought process that happens that like maybe we're not as critical when we're younger. And like I do think that has a place. Like I do also think I'm like a super highly critical person.
Yeah.
And like this is what education and art teaches us. It gives us like critical thinking, it gives us problem solving skills, and it gives us nonverbal expression. And like those are the three main things I think about when I'm teaching too. And like I think all that stuff is like super important. But I do think there's a point where you can be too critical of yourself to a point of like, you know, the phrase like you're your own worst critic.
Mm.
Like you can be so critical to yourself where you're not even able to make anything.
Yes, you can make yourself out of making.
Yeah. And so like thinking about that, what if you were to just try to remember why you started making art when you were a child, then maybe that's a way so you can counteract that critical thought.
I think
that negative critical thought, at least.
Something that comes up for me in this moment that's interesting is we talk about like the criticality of children and relating, you know, trying to understand like where the critic forms in the stages of development. But something I often forget is how critical and justice-minded I think children are naturally. And so we talk about like the importance of justice in your work, and like resolution is kind of like, you know, resolutions at play, but I think specifically like justice, and I know that there are experiences that I had when I was a child. Now thinking back to them, I was very focused as a child on injustice in the ways that like it was expressed to me through the media or the things that I kind of like noticed in school or, you know, like between different kids. But then I think like to broadly kind of talk about how art school matures this critic in a way, it does help develop it. But I also think that like the critic parts of the selves are very present in child's work, but I think that they're often like looking probably a little bit more outward and the critic kind of like turns in on itself at some point in development.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that being in academia for so long, so like if you're talking about like getting like if you're talking about getting a master's degree, you know, it's like maybe 6 years, maybe 8 years, depends on like where you go to school and how you do it. For me, like getting a master's degree took 8 years. I was in community college for 3 years. I transferred to the Art Institute of Chicago for 2 years. Then I took some time off, and then I went back to grad school and I went to a 3-year program.
3-year program, yeah.
And so like being in that sort of like thing where it's like you're not so much like allowed time to do your own research as much as there's things being just like handed to you and like, hey, read this, hey, read this. So you're almost being like spoon-fed information. And I think like that kind of thing with like academia can be a little stifling actually, to where like students aren't necessarily always taught to think as freely as you would naturally, where there's like this kind of you sign up to go through a process. Like you sign up to be institutionalized in a way where you are given certain information and certain modalities of thought, and you start to adopt those modalities of thought. I'm very thankful for learning about things like Marxism and queer theory and feminist theory. But I also know that those experiences have changed me forever. And just wondering, I don't know. And like, I think like even in childhood, there's like different kinds of like implicit bias and things that are like pushed upon us by like the people we're raised by. And I just always wonder what life would be like without that. Like, what would life be like if I hadn't like experienced like so much like toxic masculinity, you know? And I think that's the kind of thing I think about. And it is like I am like idealizing like the child experience, you know, and like I certainly didn't have like an idealized experience either. But like, what would it be like to have your mind be that free again, you know?
I'm always, I don't know, the child's mind as like a state of being is like, you know, it's kind of inevitably tarnished by just physically existing for after a certain amount of years. So like I think it's important to maintain that, but I also am like thinking about the space of schooling and stuff, like, like queer theory, Marxism, like these things are inevitably changing your brain, so it's like these people that learn like the quote unquote bad things of art world, and then those things being the quote unquote good things of maybe the art or art adjacent worlds, like all of those are mind challenges. And I think maybe I feel is like the inequity of learning the bad things versus the good things, and what access we have to those places, right? Because like if you go to a school that has an amazing professor, like everyone who goes to a college or something typically, or even high school, even middle school, whatever, there's always like that one teacher that like changed the game, and that person, what afforded them to get to that place, is so important. But I think like and I'm not saying you are saying this, I'm saying this to the world of just like saying that the child's mind is like the place that we need to return to, again, like reject modernity, embrace tradition is like the meme goes. But like I think is like, A, is that even possible? And B, and I know we're getting to Vince's work at some point, I apologize, but just to jump in here of like, shouldn't we continue to like, I said this to Rick, like our brains are giant chunks of bronze and we're just beating the crap out of it all the time with thoughts, and like it's inevitable. To exist is to be morphed, is to be changed. So
and I think it's also possible to hold like all those thoughts, and like that it doesn't have to be like such like a duality. Right. But like there is ways to just try to, I don't know, man, like I teach figure drawing. So like the first thing in any figure drawing class that you do is like gesture drawing.
Right.
And so we spend the first like 20 minutes, a half hour doing that kind of stuff. And the point of it is to really just like loosen up.
Right.
But I can't force my students to just loosen up. You know what I mean?
Right,
And like
right.
that's what it feels like, like telling them to like, oh, do some gestures and loosen up, guys. It's like, doesn't work that way. It's like, maybe I should be like, let's go for a walk and clear our minds. And like, maybe I should be like, maybe we can take 10 minutes to meditate, but then it's like early in the morning, maybe some of them fall asleep. That's okay too. but like, how do you get to that point of, what is your own authentic voice, and finding where you belong in history and present moment, and I think that like the feeling of freedom and control in art is maybe what drew me to it in the first place.
Okay.
That like I can, if there's nothing else I can control in my world, then I can control what's happening in my sketchbook. And I think that's at least to a degree, to whatever whatever skill level. Like as a kid, like I was like drawing pictures of like asking my relatives like, "Oh, what's your favorite animal?" It's like depending on what side of the family, like my mom's side of the family, I always say like camels. It's just like they're like, "Oh, we're Lebanese, so we like camels." And I'm like, okay, you don't have to like camels though. But like I would always draw pictures. I would draw a portrait of whatever relative on the head of that animal.
Oh, okay.
And it was like this like weird chimera.
Animorphs. Yeah.
It was an animorph.
It was
like my grandpa
Transformers
was like, like turkeys. And it was funny because my grandpa had one of those like waddles.
Oh.
So like he was like already turkey-like to me in some way.
So you're navigating like these totems. I mean, that's like a totem of like representation and of trying to like connect a person's likeness with their likeness, right?
Yeah.
And then like you talk about the gesture drawing. Like the gesture drawing to me was so revolutionary is because it showed me that like my output could be so like sacrilegious. Like my output could be against anything sacred. So making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those is like, okay, like get away from like the Zen hand, get away from like the sacred mark or the paintbrush on a ruler, right? So then like, but at the same time you're kind of like talking about it through this making as it being like this sacred act that you have control of, yet like underlying that is this like recognition that like production creates results and production is important, and rectifying that with like with what's sacred, and I think that like it's really interesting to hear you in the same conversation have both like recognizing this movement back to the beginner hand or to the Zen hand, but then and saying like these moments are sacred, these moments are pure expression, but then also having to like navigate the body aspects of it, having to navigate like the physicality of making what you want and negotiating it into a place where it's expressing maybe to other people, maybe to yourself, self-reflexively, the thing that you were hoping to express with the experiment.
Yeah, and I think there's also always like an aspect of like, you know, and I think this is like maybe where I'm getting at with like thinking about, you know, making art as a child, is that like maybe art's not always a place where shit has to make sense, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it's okay for me to not have to write like a, and this gets into accessibility. I worked in museums for a long time.
Mm.
You know, and I could go in a museum and I can be there. And when I was working, a lot of time I work as an attendant or as like a preparator. And like working as an attendant, like you can stand around and look at the exhibitions for a long time. You can read the 5 to 10 page pamphlet that is about like a grouping of a few paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And then really, really start to understand it. But I've also like had problems with like my reading proficiency. So like the accessibility factor of like having to like go in and like read something about a painting, like do I have to understand it in that way? You know, like, and do I have to also like as an artist then explain myself in that way?
Mm-hmm.
And there is this like pressure from like kind of more academicized institutions to produce things in that particular way. So it's like easily packaged in that way. You know, easily packaged. If you don't understand it, then you can read about it. You know, and while like I think that is good in some ways and serves its purpose, there's also like an aspect of like, why does everything have to have explanation that have to make sense? You know? And like I get like accountability. But like I also like really just enjoy chaos. And there's freedom in that, you know? And control and chaos is kind of the line you walk when you're making things. Because you can't actually like, always control what's in your sketchbook. There is that aspect of how skilled you are and how much experience you have drawing. Like the turkeys and shit that I was drawing, like my grandpa has, like, if I was to draw a portrait now, it would be like way more detailed, of course. Like it would be crazy. But like, I also like really love those old drawings, you know? I'm like,
yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, let us know when that shows up because I really want to see that.
Turkey drawings of my grandpa.
Yeah, I mean, is there a division? You know, should there be a division of labor between artists and curators, artists and art historians? Like, I mean, is it really possible? Is it really something that we should look for to be our own art historians as artists?
I think there's like you know, it's another one of these things where I kind of can have a contradicting opinion. So like there's people who like go to like school for just specifically art history and they have their experience of it. And then there's like how artists experience it. And like I've also been in museums where like I'm working and I hear like a curator giving a talk and they can't pronounce the names of certain artists specifically. I'm not going to give too much detail on that because I don't want to give anything away about that because I'm not trying to call anybody out. But like really high ranking institutions where like shit is just not ran properly. And I also think there's like, so getting into like academia, it's like the accessibility of academia and who is doing the teaching and the demographics that are allowed. And the fact that like a lot of colleges, like they'll give like scholarships like people of color, but it's only to like a couple of people of color. Mm-hmm. When it's like, you know, sometimes they'll be in there like talking about, like a curator will be in there talking about someone else's culture and they're not really aware what they're talking about. And it just kind of can actually sound ignorant or like in a way that they're not actually like presenting the proper information. and I think as artists, like there's always this thing like where it's like, yes, we have to do like a bunch of multiple jobs, you know, but like that's part of being an artist is that you have all this like creative problem solving. So you kind of just have to figure shit out for yourself and always do your own research, you know. And I do think it's important, like at the same time, to understand where you are in art history, because you don't want to step on anybody's toes. You don't want to like inadvertently just like hurt somebody or steal from them.
Yeah, we only want to do that intentionally.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, like people using that fucking Picasso quote. Oh, yeah.
Right.
The reason I copy off of all other artists is because Picasso told me so, because he did it, and it's fine.
Yeah, that was...
No, it's not fine. Picasso was kind of a piece of shit, so, like...
That was rinsed.
You know, like... And, yeah, fuck, like, yeah, I do like some of his work. Like, I enjoy seeing, like, fucking a giant minimal... Like, not minimalist, but, like, abstracted sculpture of a bull.
Yeah. It's always the bulls.
The Bulls, like the Bulls, man, the Bulls, the Bears.
Michael Jordan, you know, the Bulls.
I'm trying to remember that fucking famous painting he did of the fucking like massacre in Spain of like the fucking like the war.
Oh,
you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not an art historian.
But like that's like, you know, that's an important part of art history. But at the same time, like he's like, you know, like people talk about.
Oh, Guernica, yeah.
Guernica. But then there's also like.
Thanks for that.
You know, and like I know I'm talking about like pronouncing things correctly and like sounding ignorant, but like here I am doing it. Les Femmes de whatever, like it's like painting like three women.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're wearing like these like African masks, and like, you know, we can dissect that all day about like what the fuck fetishization and like like chauvinism and like all this other shit that's like not very cool happening.
Yeah.
That is then like presented in the museum as like, look at this amazing shit. You know, when it's like, whoa, like what about just like elevating like the African artists that
like the masks.
Yeah, like what about elevating the African artists that like they like, you know, he stole the art, basically the idea from, that like didn't give a whole lot of credit to, and these artists like are, you know, when you show like a work in a museum that's a mask, you know, from like an indigenous region of the world, and they don't like talk about the artists themselves. They, you know, it's like fair trade type shit that is not really actually happening fair trade style in the way that it presents itself.
The commodification of that object over the years has stripped it of any kind of like identity. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I don't know, we can understand, you know, commodity as something that's really pivotal and important to the arts world, but I don't know if we actually want to get into all of that.
I just think like that's part of the reason why it's like to more shortly answer the questions. Like that's why it's like important for artists to understand art history and understand their place in it. You know, so
yeah, for sure. And it is important, and it is, I think, you know, I like to go off of the philosophy that when we find paradoxes, we find truth. And I think that's kind of maybe what we get into here with the work, The Garden of the Void. But, you know, we're finding this paradoxical truth that, like, to make, you have to make things. You know, you have to be engaged in the creative practice, but then you also have to recognize, like, the place in which it's being made. And I think my experience as an artist, I have a hard time getting those at the same time. Oftentimes I'm just like, I just gotta go make. I just gotta go to the studio and make that work. And then after some period of time has passed, then I can start to talk about it, or then it starts to solidify in its place in my life.
Yeah. A lot of times, like things like concept or context and concept, like will present themselves later. You know, and like sometimes like art can be this, and that's what I'm talking about, is like allowing yourself the freedom to let the work be what it is, and then it will explain itself to you. You know,
it can explain itself through its place in the world too, which is something I'm really excited about. I'm mostly now, and I wonder if this is pertinent to you. I like this idea of like what's happening around the work as kind of like an indication of what the work is doing, because it's like kind of like this more clear reflection of what's happening is how are people standing around it, how long are people spending with it, are people traveling, are people hanging it in their houses. Those things can give me kind of like a more broad sense of how it's actually interacting in the world, right? Instead of trying to make it up.
It provides its own context, you know, like the space at which the art is shown in then provides context, as well as the history is also, you know, history is a place too. Yeah. And that provides context as well, you know, so like context brings other meaning into the work beyond just like the conceptual thought.
Is the Garden of the Void your most recent kind of complete expression? Would you characterize it that way?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think the other show, like Sticks in the Mud, had a lot of like installation based work. It's interesting because like this show was set up as something that was like I was slowly building it up over time, and had this kind of semi-cohesive thought that was kind of forming and unforming, that I then kind of brought all these things together at the end, and putting them together, you know, like there's a couple series here. So like there's the urns in the front that are basically what you call garden urns, which are like just like big urns you put plants in, just big planters. And there's actually 3 of those in the show. I'm not sure if there's a photograph of all 3, but those are kind of were built as a series. But I was also working on a thesis paper at the time. It was like ended up being like 35 pages, so I was like really writing about my work a lot as well, and just kind of really realizing that like all of this work had a lot of underlying ideas that were very similar, so it made sense to display it together, although I do think a lot of these works could also be displayed on their own. So to say something is like a complete expression is, I think that's really like everything, you know, that yes, this is a complete expression, but I think like everything I make feels like a complete expression of whatever the fuck I'm thinking about or feeling at the time, which is like always different. But like in this work, I was really thinking about like, what does it mean to be like a working class person, and what does that do to the body? And what does the space look like? For me, it's like this is really tied into my identity.
Yeah.
The big kind of installation in the back is like all made out of cardboard, and for me that has so it's kind of hard to tell, but it's all matte black sprayed cardboard with holes poked in it with like these Christmas lights poking through.
Are you using Vanta Black there?
Yeah, I got it right from Anish Kapoor himself.
Cool.
We're really close, actually. He was like, "Oh, you're building the cardboard cloud gate?" I was like, "Word, bro."
My favorite art joke ever was Hyper Allergic put out like an April Fool's that was like, last night Anish Kapoor covered the bean entirely in Vanta Black and unveils its next iteration. And like they had this awesome image of it just like completely flat black. It looked so good.
Yeah, I think that would be fucking awesome because like they're actually kind of like complete opposite ideas.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So let's start that petition, that whitehouse.gov petition.
Paint the bean fans of black. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean, it produces a really awesome effect. You know, the way that you do that.
So the matte black is always something that just really like completely absorbs light. It doesn't reflect; it just completely absorbs it.
Totally.
So that's why
I didn't get you off the track there. I know that you were.
Oh, I don't even know what you're even talking about, dude. I'm like, my brain's just like.
Fire.
Well, you were saying the experience
got a
of
V12
the worker, sort of, right? I guess like. I'm really curious, kind of about that space. Really quick, is the figure facing towards the void or at you? I can't really see in the.
It's facing towards you. Yeah.
Towards you. Okay.
Yeah.
D-Bits in the chat. We got a comment here. D-Bits Twitch in the chat says, "This reminds me of Abigail DeVille's installation at CAM that one time. She used garbage bags on the ceiling though with pinpricks."
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was dope.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Delia, for that. Yeah.
Philia, what up? Yeah, that was a really dope installation.
So
Yeah.
how are you feeling now that you've had some time away from this work? Like, do you think about it, or when it comes up in your mind, like, what are like the pangs of experience having lived this and having it be gone now for, it's been deinstalled for like what, 6-8 months?
So yeah, and here's the thing about making sculptural work is that if you don't sell it, it never goes away, or you have to just destroy it or abandon it somewhere. So I have all of this shit just sitting in storage. And it's like, the cool thing about the installation is like we built it in parts. All that wood framing just comes apart. Shout out to Teresa Joy Hitchcock. She helped me build a lot. She's an amazing carpenter. She lives in Kansas City right now.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa, for helping everyone experience this, bring it to life. But it's really the worst thing about making sculpture is that you have to find somewhere to put it, man. And it's like it's not as easy as a painting, or it's like, you know, a drawing. Where it's like I could also just like easily describe the same kind of thought in drawing with like diagrams, like say like, here's cardboard go here, you know. But it's not the same experientially, of course. So like that's kind of the fucking most like worst thing, uncomfortable thing. I have had a collector like approach me about the garden urns to the left. The title of those garden urns, there's 3 of them, is "Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst," which is a song by Kendrick Lamar. But like, yeah, I had a collector approach me about that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's probably too big," and I just was like, fuck you. What the fuck? You know, but that's how it is making sculptural stuff. Is like, yeah, it's in storage, man. So like, it's waiting for like either the day I die, and that's gonna be like my tomb where my sarcophagus goes, or I'm gonna bury it somewhere.
Bury me at the U-Haul storage on Kings Highway.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you feel that weight? Do you feel like you're carrying that weight around with you?
Not really. I mean, when stuff goes in storage, it just kind of disappears. The only thing is like that it's like a financial, I have to pay for it. So
yeah,
when I
bill every month.
When I look at my like account, I'm like, yep, there goes that like $125 every month to like store all the stuff I've made in the past like 10 years that just like doesn't have a space. So, and that's why like NFTs are tight. I'm not trying to get into all that because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but you know, digital art. And that's like, you know, that first image you were showing, that like Madonna and Child, that's like a digital piece.
Yeah.
So like, I graduated out of SIUE into the pandemic, and it was like, well, now I don't have a space to make work. I will just make like ephemeral stuff and like small collages and digital stuff from now on. And then I got the job at community college, which has now like allowed me to use certain facilities, like ceramics facilities, and like, you know, you really can't make ceramics without all that expensive shit it takes. And like, while like clay is like really cheap, and like in some ways ceramics can be like the cheapest medium, it's also like not. You need space to do it.
Yeah, and space costs money in our current moment.
Yeah.
And so we're coming up on our second break here. Denise in the chat says, "Love this work so much. We love it too." Thanks, Vince, for sharing it with us. We're going to take our second break here, our last break of the day, for about 10 minutes. So you can expect us back around 12:08, where we'll finish up this conversation. I have some things that I want to take us through on that side of things, and then we'll wrap up with our final 10 questions we ask every artist. So hanging out over the break, we're going to play that commercial again. If it's your first time watching it, it just showcases some of the other shows on the Travel Agency Network, and we will see you soon. This project started to coalesce. I started to realize that travel agents and travel agencies first are going away. And I think that those words and that term and the beauty of that is so nice that I don't ever want it to leave. I don't want it to be replaced with Expedia. So I felt like kind of a personal responsibility as an artist to take care of that gray space of like what is going to happen to this word, what is going to happen to these terms, and find something that really feels like it fits it. So the travel agency operates kind of on this principle that many people who engage with the contemporary art community are tourists. And it's very difficult for people traveling to a new place for the first time to feel comfortable in that space. And the thing that the travel agency does, or travel agents do, is they use their expertise to translate local culture and norms to a tourist, to a visitor. And the process of giving that to them and making it clear to them is a way of like welcoming them into these beautiful new experiences.
But it's funny that you bring up Kiki's now, Kiki Salem's piece, which I feel like is totally so much different than Elle's piece.
Right.
You know, this one feels very, it is meant to be empowering and implicating the viewer and the reader in a very direct way. So I feel like, you know, yeah, and maybe more people took pictures of themselves in front of Kiki's piece because of that empowering aspect of it.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we can like talk a little bit too about like the digital audience. Like I think Kiki's particularly this one was like reshared so many times, and was just like it was really cool to see how far it spread that way. Yeah, they didn't have to be there, you know, to take a photo. They could just share the image that we took. But for them, it was like sharing her PSA.
There are a couple of things. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was kind of the most contrast of like this is one that I saw a lot more interaction with on social, or a lot more people kind of like being a part of this image. I feel like this speaks, you know, like this is one that you step into and you can own this message for yourself and engage in this message for yourself. And there are a couple of other things that change with this one. The banner style of the text is very unique and divergent for the scope of what we see PSA typically do. And and then I'm not actually sure of the timing of this, but I think that looking at this one and then also looking at Jessie Donovan's billboard, and thinking about them as like similar materials as well. So there's like this banner material, and then this like I think most often billboards are kind of like this tarp-like banner, you know, vinyl tarp material, and we have a detail of it here. Okay.
That's hand embroidery by Kiki.
Oh, wow.
That was a nice touch that she added to it as well.
Yeah.
Kiki works a lot with fiber arts, so.
Yeah, maybe that's why we were kind of drawn to working on, or we talked about doing banners with her, and she was really on board. She also like does tapestries in her work and a lot of fibers, so I think it really makes sense.
A big part of the banner decision for Kiki's work was because we wanted to accommodate the Arabic text, and so the way our infrastructure set up, it would have been difficult to cut out the Arabic text and place that. It wouldn't have fit on the wires so well, so that's why we opted for a banner approach.
That there are a lot of portrait work, but then there's also a lot of graphic design with 3D elements on there. I'm looking, do you see the one that I'm showing right now?
Yeah, I can see that. That's titled either Ritual 1 or Ritual 2, but they're kind of based off me looking into like historically, like coming from like African roots, how we like use rituals like throughout time as Black people, whether it's from Africa, the Caribbean, you know, like American Black people. I feel like regardless of where you're located, like the idea of like ritual and like spirituality has always like played a huge part in the culture as a whole. So this is me kind of like not direct, this is not like a direct like, oh, this comes from this spiritual practice, but it's definitely like a shout out to spirit boards and divination and like the different ways that we would use like fortune telling and different things like that. So this is kind of like a representation of that practice, like having shapes and like in different tribes in Africa, like they'll paint shapes on their houses and on their huts to represent certain ideas, whether it's like goddesses or representing protection or whatever. So this is like my take on symbols that to me represent protection, but also historically, like the triangle, the pyramids, or the idea of the eye and like mirrors, like reflecting back to you. So it's a lot of that, like a lot of personal interpretation about like divination and spirituality, but also like historical as well.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Club Stars Line. I'm your co-host Jake Leach, and to my left on your screen is my mom, Denise Hewlett. Hi mom, how are you doing?
Oh, hi son, how are you? We ready to do
I'm
this
doing quite
today?
peachy. Yeah, we're gonna do this today. Well, so a lot has happened. I'm already out of breath. My God, we're just so hype in this. Mom, you're kind of somewhere else. The people can't really see, but we've got you're actually in space. It looks like.
Yeah.
So you're looking back onto the planet. Did you take like a Tesla rocket? Are you at the International Space Station? Where are you exactly right now?
That is a view of the Earthrise, and no, I am not in the space station. I am in my transit van in the high desert in Joshua Tree, California. That's where I'm. Shall we go ahead and show people? Should we
Yes,
do the
show
big
people where you're at. Let's take a
so
look
let me
here.
go ahead and open the van door.
Okay.
Alright.
Good.
Kind of bright, y'all. Can you see it?
Yeah,
can
mom,
we
here,
see
bring your computer over so people can kind of see.
Am I doing the right?
Yeah,
Too far too?
that's. Why don't you go out and stand in it real quick, mom, just to prove that it's not a green screen.
Hello, y'all.
Exit the van entirely. Go. This ain't no joke, y'all. Yeah, there she is, out in the world. We love to see this. Yes, bye, Denise. My mom said, or my mom, little Miss Gabby says, we got the chat blowing up over here.
Oh my goodness.
Ghost riding
All
the
right.
whip over here. So.
Okay, so we will be checking on the sunset periodically over the next hour and a half, but right now it is blazing, so I need to close it. So here we go.
Okay, yes. Get that door closed here, nice and cool.
Yes. Although, speaking of blazing, I also have my, can you see this?
Yeah, what do we have here?
My UFO incense thing going. So just to complete the whole thing, you know.
It's a full sensory overload, a full sensory experience you have going on here.
Isn't that interesting, Jake? Isn't that gonna? Yes, isn't that interesting?
Is that something that might come up later on?
That might, exactly.
Okay.
So here we go. Now this is gonna be loud. Okay,
All right, here we go, friends.
Yeah, okay, ready?
Everyone cover your ears. Okay. Ooh, goodness.
Three.
All right, we're back. Thanks for hanging out across the break. You are watching The Travel Agency. You're watching our flagship show, Art Brunch. The Travel Agency is a digitally native platform where artists make TV on the internet. Our programming presents contemporary artists and their processes in an approachable manner. In 2021, the Travel Agency received grant funding through the Futures Fund, supported by the Andy Warhol Foundations for the Arts. So yeah, each week we do this here with a different member of the contemporary art world. We try to keep it pretty casual. It's like our live podcast where we can show the artist's work. So yeah, and y'all feel free to ask questions as we go. Things will be taking kind of like a turn in this last segment here, where by the end of it we have just some like fun questions for us all to get to know Vince a bit better. And I'll kick it back to the crew. What's up, y'all? You have a good break?
We sure did.
Spring
Feeling
break.
hydrated, feeling light, feeling good.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad. The Bloody Mary is easy on my belly.
Yeah.
Is it hard on your belly?
Kind of like a spicy smoothie.
Yeah. It's like vegetables. Get a serving of veggies. Do you think it counts as a serving of veggies?
It should. Is it like a V8 sort of thing?
Yeah, it's like a
Oh,
V8.
yeah.
That
I
counts.
think it feels like that for sure.
I do not like V8 though.
I don't either. But
I only
you do
drink
what you
tomato juice if it's
Got alcohol.
con alcohol.
Just add some fucking alcohol to some V8 and booyah,
can do
baby.
that.
All right, cool. Well, where we left off, we were talking about how the pandemic, the global pandemic, impacted kind of the physical nature of your work, and something that you were exploring towards the end, because you finished your MFA with like full lockdown, pretty much.
Yeah, and that was
Sucks.
building that installation during that. Like I had to kind of stop in the middle of it, and then I had to I basically had to sneak into the building to get it done, which was not as shady as I thought it was going to be, because there was really no one.
No.
It didn't feel like that. Like I was like, oh shit, I better close all. Like behind the installation and the images, there's like a bunch of windows. So building the installation was like also like I was like, okay, I'm blocking off to where anybody can see me anyway, so that's good. But I had to like close the blinds and shit while I was doing all of that.
Yeah.
It was hard. I had to like sneak other people in, like Moira, who like helps you guys with the show, like helped me with that. Shout out to Mo, my partner. She's out there listening.
Shout out.
But yeah, it was going from being someone who like works so specifically with like materials and was like really enjoying having the space to work on a large scale. Like, when you leave a school, if you've been basically making sculpture the whole time, you're immediately not going to have space to do that unless you have something set up anyway. So it was that reality check just came a little earlier for me. So then kind of moving into like making digital things and things like that was a little more like, how do I bring the same amount of meaning? Because it's like my materials have like a lot of meaning. So like the thing in the background is like big. It's called an apse. An apse is like that area in like a church. It's in mosques, it's in synagogues, and all kind of religious structures. That dome or that half dome structure is completely like it's got a wood frame that's completely covered in cardboard. So like there's a lot of meaning for me in using cardboard, where it's like my parents. I was saying this over the break to you guys. Like my parents met at a warehouse, which is the famous bar warehouse in down like kind of midtown St. Louis, which is now a Goodwill outlet, so I can kind of go in there and be in that place. But the fact that like they met in this like specific place, this workplace, and they're both like always handling packages, always touching cardboard. So the material itself has like a very, very personal meaning for me. That is also something that is like seen like differently, but it's like seen universally. Like it's a universal material in a lot of ways. It's a globalized material. So to use that material had a lot of meaning to me. So how to bring that into smaller work was something that I was trying to explore more moving forward after that. So yeah, and like that became like a little bit of digital art, like a little bit of smaller collage and like ephemeral work. A lot of the stuff that you see in the solo show after this, which was the Sticks and Mud show, was like, all right, I had a space to show work. I like kind of fell into a position at the community college. Really because of the pandemic. One of the professors who was like a mentor of mine when I was in school there, Eric Schultes. Shout out to all the Flow Valley family, like much love there. Like,
Yeah.
still have all the connections to all my mentors from there. All my, all the people who were students there at the time I was there, all my, colleagues now.
You made the jump.
Yeah, they made the jump. But that was like a really formative moment for a lot of our careers, was being in that's really like the smallest community college in the area.
Yeah.
Where we're all kind of like working really closely with each other.
Do you think that this like, now that you're in that position, you're talking about like finding ways to express similar things with like different mediums, without as much facility, and now, I mean, you do have some facility there, but like, does the education aspect, does like being a leader in that space feel like it gives you the opportunity to have that type of expression without having it take up physical space?
Yeah, in a different way. I mean, as an educator, it's kind of hard to figure out when to talk about your personal experience in the classroom.
I see.
And I think, like, if I see my students like really struggling in one way or another, like, I know that like most community college students at least come from like a background where their parents probably didn't come up with a lot of money. And my professor, Eric Schultes, like, he would always tell me that, like, like, yeah, you're going to the Art Institute, but you have to remember that people think differently there. And you're really going to have to, like, prove yourself to them, because they're going to look down on you. And you're going to have to work extra hard. Because a lot of people, people who go to these higher ranking institutions, part of the reason that the cost for these institutions is so inflated is because there's a lot of really wealthy people that go to school there who don't have to take out loans, even whose parents can outrightly pay for them. So I have to tell my students to take any hard work because a lot of them are like working jobs. Some of them are even working full-time jobs while they're in school. And you have to take that work ethic and put it into your art. You have to focus and put your work ethic into your art and put everything into your work if you want it to be successful. And if you want to be successful, you have to invest in yourself in that way. And so, like, when I talk about those things, sometimes I'll connect those things to like my personal experience, my lived experience. And then I'll try to bring in like ideas of people I know who are like really killing it in like the art world, like who are like really showing in like big name galleries and museums, which are like some of the same homies I like came up with at the school. And it's like, and it's important for the students to see that too, that like there might not be a path completely just made for you, but you can look at a lot of these different people as examples of like how to move forward. But you have to be present and be with the work, because like, and I also tell them that they need to view their school as work. It's not, it sucks because it's in some ways it's work that you pay for. You're paying to go work somewhere, but you're paying for training that's going to be an investment for your life. And if you keep investing in that, there's going to be a return eventually. And like, I don't really like to think about like money when I think about my work. I like to use some of the cheapest materials. I like to use like stuff that's just like available around me for the most part. But like, that is a thing. And like, if you grew up where your parents worked their asses off and they're constantly asking you, how are you going to make money with this? Of course it's going to be on your mind. You have to think about that to survive. You got to put food on the table. And it's important. So that's where those things kind of work their way in. I do think about teaching as something where, it kind of is, and it could be in a funny way viewed as your own like art project, where it's like you like any teacher is going to rub off on their students in a way that's going to perpetuate the things that like that teacher specializes in. But that being said,
joy too in some ways, right? Yeah, like you get that personal experience. Like that's kind of something you could never. Like there's Wikipedia, and then there's like this teacher.
And the teacher.
And I always love like when people go to art school. It's like this person full name, like first name, second name.
Yeah.
Right? And I, as someone who's never gone to a school where I got to know my teachers by first name, last name,
Yeah.
I always love that when people share those things. But
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the ticket actually, is like, that's why it's so important to have these amazing teachers, because there is Wikipedia, or you have this person that can tell you their version of it.
Yeah, and they can, that person's like a living history book who has their whole own lived experience, you know, and they're going to share with you all these different things about art making, but they're also going to share with you, like, especially what they love about that.
Right.
And you'll connect with the teachers the most who love the same things that you do, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, and
so
not
every teacher can. What did you say?
Do you bring that to your classroom? Do you feel like do you try to, like, because I know you're saying you kind of like, you try not to put yourself in
no,
there,
I totally do, like, and
kind
like
of inevitable, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like saying, like, what I kind of was talking about earlier, like a little bit, like with like bringing that kind of like the kind of childlike expression and experimentation to the work. Like, I don't want to just teach my students how to make something. I want to teach them creativity.
Sure.
Which is something that's kind of hard to do, because it's like you'll see this kind of like apprentice mentor model that's presented a lot. And it kind of depends on what kind of school you go to. There's research institutions, teaching institutions, but a lot of times there's this like apprentice mentor model, especially in like the field of ceramics. There's a lot of this like tradition. But to me, it's really, my focus is more on like trying to help the students figure out how to express themselves. So like in my drawing class, like I'll tell my students that like some things they might view as their flaws now in their drawing, and maybe their lack of control, or maybe just the differences they see when they compare themselves to the students who are really killing it, those things later might just become their style. And those flaws that they see, like, can eventually become something that they love and learn how to control and learn how to, you know, enjoy. It's like X-Men, like harnessing your power, harnessing your like your
mutation.
Your power. How to harness your mutation, because like life throws you through all this shit, and at the end of the day, that somehow comes out on the paper when you're drawing.
Yeah.
And like, I can't even explain how the fuck that's happening, but like I know that I draw like kind of crazy sometimes, and like it really a lot of times depends on how I'm feeling that day.
Yep.
And there's this just like immediate expression that comes when you make something.
And sometimes you end up with your head on a turkey body, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes you're a turkey,
and
sometimes you're a giraffe.
Oh.
Got you. I'm proud of you.
But teaching isn't a substitution for making. Can't be, right?
So like at the community college, they have like at least at Florida Valley Community College, they have a very specific mission statement. And this college has like a really long history that's not well known. It was one of the first NASA accredited community colleges, 2-year programs in the country. They have this like connection to Oxbow, which is the School of Art Institute's like residency program in Michigan, which like offers a scholarship yearly to like one student to go there. And like, I don't really, there's all these like connections that are worked out for this very specific community college and all these like very specific things. But I also think that like part of their mission statement is that the teachers there are also working artists. And I think they really go hand in hand. And I don't really believe that like someone who's not, you know, walking the walk and talking the talk is going to be the best educator. But in some cases, there's people who are like not so good artists, but are also great educators. So it takes all kinds. But I think for me personally, they are really tied together. And things like doing demos, like, of course, like my different like kind of leanings of where I lean stylistically will always find their way in the work. Where like I can try to make like a really clean pot while I'm like doing a ceramic like wheel throwing demo. That demonstration is has a specific purpose where like I'm demonstrating how to make something super functional. But if like I'm trying to be more expressive, then the approach will be different. And I do like have like this, after like being around people who make pottery so long, like learning to make pottery, realizing that like for me, the experience of like drinking out of a vessel can be a very specific thing, and like that in itself has its own is its own medium. Like the tactility of that like is not something you'll experience through painting. You're not going to drink a cup of tea out of a painting. So like
if you follow Justin
maybe you
Beachley's
might.
work, you might rip a bong through a painting.
function form makes function. I
Yeah.
love it. It's great.
Let's go. That's right.
Louis Sullivan will be proud.
Yes. No, it's great. Yeah, Deebits here in the chat says loving this convo on teaching. I think Deebits is also engaged in teaching as a part of like as a part of their movement through graduate school. Is that right, Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
through. Yeah, exactly.
it's cool to connect those dots for people too, and it just makes me feel like I always get these evil pangs of wanting to go back to school, and thinking about just having this conversation brings me back into that evil. So I don't know to thank you or be mad at you for that, Vince. So.
Hey. Yeah, no duality, man. No duality. It's all part of the same thing. I say go for it if you're feeling it.
Yeah. No, just
Does
it's
your
a feeling
brain
that
sound
comes
like
and
the
goes.
song "Duality" by Slipknot in your head right now?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really just talking to myself. I'm like, stop playing duality in my head, brain.
Well, we want to move on to our last segment here.
Let's do it.
Okay, I think so. So these are our final 10 questions that we ask every artist. Just a way to build a bridge out of that conversation that we had, which is amazing, and we would obviously love to have you back in the future, to talk about whatever comes up in the next year or whatever. I mean, there's so much space. Before we get into that, Vince, what are like the best ways that our audience or that people who are interested in your work and want to keep up with it, what are the best ways that they can support you, or what are the ways that feel like people are supportive of you in the community?
Coming to see the work.
Yeah.
Just conversation, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really funny. Like we started talking this, like kind of our brunch, like talking about like the painting of the wings and like how there's that dopamine rush.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, like how do people really support me lately? It's like, well, I get a dopamine rush from when people like my stuff on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a really false type of support. Like it provides an emotional support. But like for any artist, of course, like buy our work so we're not starving artists.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to get rid of some of my work, so I have to put it in storage, of course.
Free up some space.
But like, yeah, if you wanna hit me up on Instagram, like just follow me. I don't. What is it? At Vincent Stemmler, except it's VINCNT. I took all the vowels out.
Yeah. VNCT.STMMLR, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Or you can check out my website. But yeah, just feel free to hit me up in the DMs. We can talk about art, and let's see where we go from there. That's like, to me, like that kind of communal aspect's like important. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, it often is kind of like the obvious things, but it's good to talk about it with people and say, like, I'm open to having these conversations, like if we see you out at the opening that, it's cool. It's cool to talk about the work, and that's a way that I think, people can really support. And I think we're moving into a time where we'll be able to support things in person safely a bit more, which will be important. I mean, is so pivotal to the work. Like, these images don't do any of this any justice. These things are 3-dimensional. You can walk through them. And like flattening them on an image is utilitarian in a lot of ways. It's like the cup you drink out of, but it's not always the sculpture.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's get into these final 10 questions here. Jake, do you want to lead us off?
Let's do it. Vince, what is one simple thing you're trying to get good at?
Oh God, I'm so like unfocused. What am I trying to get good at? I was trying to learn Arabic, and then I kind of the pandemic happened, and I was like, well, looks like I'm never gonna go to the Middle East.
Oh wow!
I want to learn Arabic.
Okay.
I guess that's it. I can list like 12 things that I have aspirations to do. I'm just kind of like been in like such a weird like mental state that I'm kind of like, nah.
Not that one today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm trying to do that.
Maybe I'm not going to sit and meditate for an hour today.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just going to lay down for an extra hour.
Hey, that can be what you need.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to get better at taking care of myself in the ways that I need to. How about that?
That's good. We support you in that.
Thank you.
Second question for you. What is your favorite type of gum?
Ooh. Damn. Wait. Okay. This is not an easy question.
Okay.
Like, do I chew gum? Really? Not really. I like juicy fruit.
Juicy fruit.
Yeah.
It's a solid choice.
Juicy fruit and juicy fruit flavors.
If you're gonna chew gum, you know, you might as well.
It's called juicy
go
fruit.
juicy.
Why would you not like that?
I don't chew gum.
Yeah, some
Maybe
people
you
get.
should start.
Hurts my jaw.
Yeah, go chew gum and go to art school, Rick. You can do both.
Yeah.
God, no, that makes me
No
feel
duality.
makes me feel sick thinking about it. I had a moment of weakness. Now when I think
Oh.
about going back to art school, I just feel ill. Vince, have you ever successfully completed a game of Monopoly?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember who won.
But it's happened.
It's definitely happened.
Spacetime Mountain, what's up, dude? Says, thought this was the 5 Gum channel. It's true.
I mean, it's true.
I just like all of my media, all of the things that I'm learning how to do. I hope it just leads up to me being able to produce a 5 Gum commercial at one point in time, with
Oh, geez, no, but,
a
yeah.
good budget, like a nicely budgeted. That's my.
Brought to you by 5 Gum. What's your favorite flavor of 5 Gum?
That's my
Less than 5 minutes.
That's my Virgil moment. That's my Arsham collaboration with Porsche. Is the Rick Bowling 5 Gum commercial.
Let's go.
Does it last 5 minutes or 5 hours?
Depends on how good you chew.
Yeah.
Very
Depends on your
slow.
chompers.
I got some slow chompers. It's going to
How
take
you
5
be
hours
chomping,
to do
you
this
know?
5 Gum here. 5
Right.
times.
Good to see you in the chat though, Spacetime. Good to see you.
I mean,
Jake?
Oh, yes. Other than being an artist, what would be your dream job with no limits?
No Limit Soldier. When I was a kid, I really liked the idea of being an archaeologist.
Oh.
But like, I think part of that is because like 2 of the people who really helped raise me were like my aunt and uncle. My aunt was like that artist I was talking about earlier, and my uncle's a botanist, like a horticulturist, and like I just wanted to find something when I was younger that was like, oh yeah, so that's like a mix of like art and science, kind of. That's cool. But outside of art, like I really like plants, like a lot. Like I fucking have been taking care of these babies for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think something with plants. I mean, like botany is like fucking awesome. Or just like growing my own food the whole time would be cool.
Sure.
But
Farmer, maybe?
I think the limit for that shit would be like my physical body.
Yeah.
Like I did landscaping for like about 10 years, and I don't really want to do it ever again.
Yeah.
This is such hard work, man. It doesn't pay super well, and so it's just like, you know,
Landscaping is brutal.
not something I can keep doing forever, you know. So
For sure.
What was your favorite cartoon growing up? This is the Rorschach test of all Rorschach tests.
I'm gonna go with Ren and Stimpy.
Yep.
Oh.
That explains it.
Or some Rocko's Modern Life type shit, you know, that kind of stuff. Pre SpongeBob.
I think
Like SpongeBob before there was SpongeBob, really. If we're gonna
we could have just only asked that question today, and that would have been the whole
we're
talk.
gonna go on for 3 hours. guys want to psychoanalyze SpongeBob and Rocco's Modern Life from a Marxist perspective?
It's our new show here on the Travel Agency.
Yes.
Rocco's Marxist Life. That's what it's called.
There you go.
You want to host that show, Vince?
Yeah, I'm
Let's
down. He's like, call me Rocco now.
Roxo's Marxist
Italian?
Life. Yeah, hosted by the Italian. Vincente Stemmler.
Vincenzo.
Rocco Vincente.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Okay, Vince, while driving, are you typically the giver or the receiver of the finger?
Lately the giver.
Okay.
Mm.
So you're
Just trying to give back.
on
Trying to
your,
get back
on your
to-
hot driver summer right now.
I'm trying to do my diligence.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just like lately my life has just been something where I've learned how to establish my boundaries, and part of that is learning to drive defensively. So
Yeah.
I drive a piece of shit like truck from 1994. It's like beat to hell, and I look like a scrapper.
Mhm.
And like people don't expect it to go fast, but it has a lot of get up and go to it. It has a V8 engine, and it fucking like it will go. And like people come up alongside of me and they won't use their blinker, and they'll start like, edging towards me as if they're trying to get me to move over without saying things or signaling, just kind of push me over basically. So I just don't let that shit happen anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
And like, the last time I gave the finger was like a couple weekends ago. Like I said, like I was with Vaughn Davis and we were coming back from Chicago. I was driving his car, which is like a really fucking nice car that he like is like,
Open that Jetta.
paying a lease
Hey,
on
I
it.
got a Jetta, baby. Let's go.
And it's just his are you guys there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. No.
Okay, sorry, someone called me. My computer
Okay.
went crazy. But I was driving his car, and it was like a really nice car, and this guy started doing that to us, and I just like sped up and got alongside him. I was like, "Fuck you, you bitch! Get out, girl! Beat your ass!" And it's like, I'm like, dude, I'm not. Maybe I am more. I think I'm a lot more defensive person than I am now than I used to be, and that comes after like being in therapy and learning that like people have just like taken advantage of me and pushed me around my whole life, and like I don't have to let that happen. So that's like I'm a giver.
It's a Jetta lifestyle. Once you get behind that
Once
German steering wheel.
Once you get that Jetta, you're just like, fuck you.
Well, it's like the modern day mosh
Me,
pit,
right.
Like I don't go to enough hardcore shows anymore. I need some place to bump into people without actually bumping into them.
Mosh in
I
traffic.
need to be very angry while I drive every time.
Yeah. I just listen to Cannibal Corpse and cut people off. Every time I get in the car, I just
Right.
dun, 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 brrr, I'm fucking out there. I put a wig on so I have like long hair, and that's like the only way I can drive these days. Is just straight up like death metal. You
Coping
blow out the steam.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Coping
That's
mechanism.
fine.
On a similar note, what are your thoughts on Crocs?
Can I ask you to pull something up really quick?
Yeah.
Can you pull the Quan shoes, or they're also like there's another brand that makes them called Feivue, I think, FEIVUE. I'm not sure how much Crocs cost, but these are a pretty good alternative. These are only $25.
Oh.
I've never owned a pair of Crocs. I've never worn them. Would I wear them? Yes.
You talking about these?
These are a little more my style. They're actually built for like Taekwondo. They're form-fitting. They're excellent for riding a bike. They're not super precious because they're so cheap. You can kind of wear them in any environment. They're breathable because it's almost all canvas. Highly recommend. So, I'm going to redirect the conversation about Crocs towards something I think is a little better. Here.
Feivue-shoes.com/Rocco Marxist Life.
Yeah,
for your
shout out
coupon
to that
code.
Rocco Marxism. Yeah, so like I don't know. I can't really formulate an opinion on Crocs. I've never worn them.
Okay.
Okay.
I think they're kind of ugly. They could probably be comfortable. I see that they could probably be good work shoes, good shoes for when you're in water. Very breathable. And I've seen people doing like some customization on them, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
like
a fair answer. So then these final 3 questions, David says, I'm wearing Crocs right now.
right on.
Yes.
You know, you do you.
Go off, D-bits.
I had the bistro Crocs when I was working at Brasserie. They
They're
were
pretty comfortable. I hear they're comfortable.
I never slipped on anything. Those were the most slip-resistant shoes I ever had. Were those industry Crocs? They're super ugly. They were awesome. That was my final form. I was like, oh, if I'm serving, I really got to get the full server shoes and put on the bistro Crocs. When you see a server with Crocs on, just know they're about to hook you up. They're gonna hook you up. They know what they're doing.
All right, that's good to know.
Walk on a wall like Spider-Man, I swear.
These next 3 questions kind of get a bit slower now, and are kind of like the ways that we like to wrap up these talks. So, what do you think most people get wrong about artists, Vince?
That we're lazy.
Hmm.
I mean, I have to tell my students all the time that if you're pursuing this path, it's going to be like one of the hardest things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard work. And I think that there's a misconception about that. And I'm not really sure where that comes from, but it's like there is also part of it where it's like there's always this like bourgeois aspect to it where like historically it's like people who are like really wealthy are the only people who are doing like painting. But that comes with like mediums. Like if you talk about like craft media, and I don't even really like using that kind of phrasing, that delineation, because it comes from a classist, sexist, racist background. But like if you're talking about craft media, it's like craftspeople are very fucking hard workers. Like I'm talking about like people making pottery across the globe, like functional objects, like slaves in the United States making pottery. Back in the day, I'm talking about like the people who make our clothes. You know, that shit is all hard work, and it's in the art realm, and it's craftsmanship, and it just is like not something we view on the forefront. But I do think that like if you are trying to be successful as an artist, you got to be a hustler. Like you got to be able to sell yourself, you got to be able to sell your work, and you got to be able to do all these different jobs at once. It's not easy. It's not easy. That's why I tell my students when they come to class, I'm like, you better get in here and work your ass off. You're not gonna go nowhere. You're gonna be still working at that fucking fast food restaurant if you don't get in here and like be present. Like, like you have to work.
Get your ass in here right now and be present.
That's what I tell them. I literally went off on them one week, and I was like, look, if you're gonna be here, but you're actually not gonna be here at all, and you're gonna be on your phone or talking the whole time, you might as well get out of here, because like there's no point for you to be here because you're not actually here. So be present, guys. Be mindful.
That's me as a dad. Go to your room and be present for a minute.
Yeah.
I love it. Mindfulness is punishment. I love it. Speaking of which, this is perfect. Vince, describe your meditation practice or similar way of relaxing / connecting.
I mean, I think like it's interesting like that we like use meditation practice as like such like an open thing. Like there's like so many different things that we can call meditative. Like art making can be meditative, running can be meditative, driving can be meditative if you don't lose your fucking mind and start flipping people off. Listening to fucking Slipknot and whatever other Cannibal Corpse and shit.
It's some kind of meditation, okay? The mosh pit.
For me, like,
I love the mosh pit.
It has like a very specific meaning. Because for me, like I've kind of practiced like what is kind of like mindfulness meditation. I've studied with like several different like Buddhist monks, all kind of in the Zen Buddhist tradition, and in some traditions they call it Shikantaza, in some traditions they call it Zazen. Very similar practice, where like you are just sitting cross-legged, trying to hold your back straight. And in Zen, we actually do meditation with the eyes open. So you're usually want to be facing a blank wall. But the idea is to have all the sense fields activated. So you can really kind of watch your thoughts, but try not to go into a tangential space with them. Try not to grasp the cloud that's floating by, as they might say. and to really just kind of be present in your body. And like for me, like I grew up having like anxiety, like social anxiety, and there's moments where I will be triggered into, you know, whether it's something that comes from a traumatic experience or just being overwhelmed, and I'll have these kind of like moments of like dissociation. And what that looks like is like kind of the complete opposite of being present, where I sometimes don't even feel like I'm in my body anymore. So meditation in that realm, like mindfulness, zazen, shikataza, whatever you might call it, has been really helpful to me as a person. And sometimes that just can be as simple as like sitting and counting your breath. So like you take a deep breath in through your nose. My dog just did it at the same time. You let it out. And then you notice the silence that happens afterwards. Then you take another deep breath in. And you can count your breaths too, but the important thing is that you can start to notice that there's something that happens after your body does an action. There's a silence in your mind that happens. And that's my meditation practice. I normally do it like once a week. I'm part of an online meditation group that I think is going to be going in person again soon, but maybe they'll keep doing online. It's actually up in Chicago for you Chicagoans. Paying attention right now. It's like a queer dharma. Anyone's welcome though. It's actually helped. One of the people who helps run it is one of my old mentors from the Art Institute, William O'Brien. And that's actually going to be happening again today. They do it every Sunday. I think it's at 7. It's 6 or 7 today. But yeah, if you holler at me in my DMs, whatever, I can send you the link to that. But yeah, I like to meditate, like actually like traditional type of meditation practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Rick, do you want to take the last one?
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us. I know that it's important to you, and I think it's great, you know, for people to have these ways of reconnecting outside of the doingness. The doingness is so pervasive.
Yeah, you have to realize that you're already doing stuff. You know, that's the hardest thing. Is like we're constantly being told to do things and produce, and then put everything on social media and announce everything to everybody. Everybody doesn't need to know your fucking business. Some stuff you can keep to yourself, and you can just chill. You know, like, and that's part of my problem is that I always have this like, what are other people thinking about me? What are people thinking about what I'm thinking about? What are people thinking about what I'm thinking about? What they're thinking about? And that's a racing thought pattern. And it's just literally just me. There's nobody else involved for real. You know, and it's just like there's a way to slow that down and to make distance from that. And that's been how to do it for me. Yeah, it's been really important.
Smothspit puts the number 6 in the chat. I'm not sure if that is meaningful. I think the meaning is lost. Maybe it's at 6.
That must be when the thing is.
There you go.
It's 6 to 7 today. Yeah.
The final. It's just random numbers in the chat now.
Everyone drop your fave number in the chat.
Yeah, fave number in the chat. We'll do your numerology later. The final question that we like to ask artists here is, what is the most memorable response you've received about your work?
So I think a lot of my work is really rooted in personal experience and in place and time. And I just recently had someone who like grew up in St. Louis. They grew up in a different part of St. Louis, but they had like similar experiences growing up. And they didn't really know that I grew up here. But when they saw my work, that they could feel the places that it was coming from. And that they totally just kind of got it. They're like, I can't put it to words, but like the experiences you're talking about are what I grew up with too. And that I can see all of those experiences. And that there's this, because for me, like the objects and the materials I use, like refer back to different places and times, different experiences in my life that are kind of very specific sometimes. And while like I think that there is like a relatability and like a universality to like a lot of the materials I use, for me there's also like a very specific connection to things that like I know the viewer's not always going to get, and that's okay. But when somebody really gets that stuff, it just kind of is like, wow, like how even like did I leave enough breadcrumbs on the trail for you to just like really find your way back to the exact place that I was at, and to the like and to where I found these materials that I'm using, and those types of things. I think that was probably one of like the most memorable experiences as of late. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Well, that does it for our 10 questions. Kind of does it for our show here today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with us, and I had a great time. I mean, I feel like we went through it all. We went into the void and out of it today with you, Vince.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having
I've been
me.
on the list for a long time, so it's also good to have this come to fruition. It's kind of been like getting Vaughn last week was like, okay, check mark, finally. And like getting you on is like, okay, check mark, we're doing that. So we're just kind of we're getting into our not to say that those weren't the cases for our previous artists. All of our artists are special, but there's also special folks in our lives. So you're amongst them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Blathen artist. Blathen
Oh, hey,
artist.
Brian.
Says, excellent to see you on Art Brunch, Vince. Can't wait to do some prints. And also congratulates us on the Futures Fund here at the Travel Agency.
Yeah, okay, so I should shout out to them too. I'm doing some prints with the Free Press Project.
Oh, cool.
Brian Lathan and Amanda Atarian. We also got some similar funding to you guys from the Futures Fund. I'm going to be doing some prints with them. They're like going to be collaborating with a lot of artists in the future.
Oh,
and,
yeah. I want to say...
I'm going to be the first one that they're going to be working with, so
cool.
look out for that.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we're
on Futures Fund.
We're going to be doing some, like when we do the prints, those prints are going to be for sale, and we haven't decided yet who the donations are going to go to, but 50% of the prints are going to be sold, and 80% of those sales are going to go to a nonprofit organization, which is something I've loved doing for a long time. It's like donating funds to people, you know, because I honestly like sell my stuff and don't pay taxes. Don't tell the government about that. But, you know, it's like we're all in this together, and we can only really rely on like systems of power for so much. We have to like help each other constantly. And that's like something that's been beautiful about the pandemic is like so much mutual aid is sprouting up. So much love to Brian and Amanda. Look out for those prints. And, yeah.
Awesome. Yes, we will definitely keep an eye out for that. And I think we follow that project. We went and followed through everybody that was doing Futures Fund. So we'll definitely signal boost the way that we can signal boost. Spacetime Mountain says, thanks, Vince, Jake, Rick. Great talk. Thanks for being here, Spacetime. We're chilling. So we're just gonna keep it moving. We know you're gonna keep it moving, Vince, for sure, with the work, with what's coming out. And Jake, you got anything coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Well, this coming week, we have a very special Artist Play Video Games on Tuesday evening.
Oh, yeah, Tuesday.
Should we reveal the deets, or should I just leave it at that? Well, we're going to have a special guest and former guest of Art Brunch, Matt Sage, joining us, joining our ranks. So it'll be a 5-person stream, which is ought to be chaos. But we're playing a Fortnite, actually, rather than our typical Minecraft. So that ought to be something. And I'm curious to see who joins us from the Twitch universe, since there is so much, Fortnite being played.
Yeah, so Jack Garland, Marissa Dimkowski, Matt Sage, you and I are playing Fortnite. So, yeah, we got that to look forward to.
Yeah. And, Rick, you might have a special thing coming up next Saturday?
Yeah, next Saturday in conjunction with GCAD. I've been doing these IRL stream walkthroughs. So I did Park-like as a part of the Pulitzer Arts Foundation. I went to City Garden and Twain last week. So this Saturday for GCAD's opening, I forget which exhibition it is, which number it is, but I'll be doing a live stream from GCAD's opening. So if y'all can't make it out over there or just want to see it before you can make it out over there, you can check in on that stream on Saturday. We'll do a walkthrough. We'll probably interview Marianne or try to get some of the artists on the video as well. So you can be looking forward to that. I think I'm going at like 5, so I'll probably pop the stream up around then and kind of chill because their space is so great to like connect in this world.
A lot of cool space to walk through. Absolutely.
Danny Baby Boy, awesome job, friends. Thanks, Baby Boy. Shout out to you, Danny. Thanks for hanging out.
Baby boy.
Alias Lover with the hearts. Yes, so that's pretty much it, Vince. Other than the Prince, do you have anything else you want to shout out? Anything that's coming up or anything you just want to share with the ether before we go?
Nope.
Great.
Yeah.
Just put you on the spot.
All right.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Just be here with us. And yes, Sma, thanks for hanging out. Sma says thank you all for sharing your time and smarts. Yeah, sometimes this big brain is just so hard on my neck.
You got your neck workouts, dude. That's what you're gonna find Jake Paul.
Oh yeah, Body by Jake Paul.
Yeah. Hit 'em up.
All right, well, we're going to take off here. Thanks again to everyone for hanging out. If you enjoyed the stream, drop a follow, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, y'all.